Welcome. Oh, it's you first. It's you. Let's start with me, and then we'll get to him. Welcome to Adam Does Movies Live. I already gave away the plot, but I mean, it's in the title already. We have a fun show. It's Tuesday night. I got John Paula here. He's been gone for a while, but now he's back with the jump off. Let's just bring him in.
Hi there.
Since I already revealed you early.
I'm glad you didn't catch me picking my nose or anything. I was paying attention, thankfully. So,
just the one take spit.
Well, it thankfully has not happened before. But as you well know, with live programming, I'm constantly paranoid and petrified that I'm going to slip up and just be like, "Here's my credit card. Oh, what? This not supposed to be on camera."
Oh my god,
you can't take it back.
Lindsay's always like, "Oh, have fun with your live stream." Like, I don't have fun with these ever. I'm genuinely. I get anxiety about this, and nothing else in the world really phases me, but going live for the first 5 or 10 minutes, I just get freaked the fuck out. But
yeah, and then for me, and it has been a while since I've done a long, proper live show like this. Once you get into it, like an hour or 2 hours in, then you just get really loosey and goosey and tired, and it's like you're up all night talking.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I'm being so vulnerable and honest right now. Like, these are complete strangers to me, all things considered, but. It is good to be here. I have been a monthly guest host on the Sift Pop podcast for the last 3 years or so, basically since the pandemic started. But that's primarily audio, and they're like 90% of their audience listens to the show rather than watches the stream. So,
well, John, before we really get into it, why don't you kind of bring people up to speed? Who you are? You're not just some random stranger on the streets that I asked to do this. You've been on YouTube for quite a long time. And you made a career of reviewing movies for what, a decade?
Yeah. No, I sure did. I'm gonna put my flashlight on so you can see right over here. 1, 2, 3 silver play buttons.
I can bring you up full screen. Why don't we enhance? Why don't we enhance that?
These right here. I got Movie Night, Jog Wheel, and then the John channel. I used to be a big shot on YouTube a long time ago. I've been doing this, and I technically am still doing it. I'm just doing it for somebody else. I've been doing YouTube for 17 years. If you don't know who I am or my background, I got initially famous in 2007, blowing stuff up in microwaves on a little show called Is It a Good Idea to Microwave This? That was a blast. So much fun. It was a bit like the Slow-Mo Guys or Mr. Beast, but like 10 years before either one of them existed.
Yeah, I've never seen a Mr. Beast YouTube episode yet. And I know he has
impressive
350 million subs or something like that.
He's honestly, he's pretty entertaining. I understand why.
I would imagine.
So popular. I totally get it.
I'm not like actively boycotting or anything. He never showed up in my feed because it's like, out of touch, middle-aged white dude, not relevant. Yeah.
Of all the people to have the honor of the #1 most subscribed person on YouTube, I'm thankful that he's not like a racist Logan Paul type, and he's just like, no, he's just doing viral philanthropy. It's like, of all things considered, he's a pretty good ambassador for the site. Anyway, I did microwave videos for 4 years, and then concurrently with that, I dipped my toes into the movie reviewing community. I'd done a little bit of that in high school on public access TV when I was a teenager, and I was like, I have an audience now. I can force this down their throats. My opinions on film need to be heard by people because I think, as you mentioned in your channel trailer just yesterday, Adam, the world needs more middle-aged white men sharing their opinions on popular culture. There's not enough of that.
It's such an untapped resource of potential, you know?
So in 2009, I did my movie review show, Movie Night. I did over 215 episodes that reviewed 700 films. Did that on and off. Mostly, it started every week, and then it was like every month, and then it was like 3 times a year. And then I had kids and got a full-time job and kind of retired from this space. I think that's the short version of my story on YouTube here. But yeah, I have over 1 million subscribers. I love movies, and I love your channel, Adam. I'm not just your friend. I'm also a viewer. I have been watching and commenting, as I think you well know, most of your stuff for a while now.
Yeah, that reminds me, I genuinely forgot how you and I connected because we've never actually met physically in person. It's always
but
been.
We've done this a few times. You've been on my show. I've done movie feuds, I think once or twice.
But how did that even start? Did I direct message you on Twitter, or was it the other way around?
I might have messaged you. There was a time, and still, to be fair, I'll go around and specifically hunt out smaller YouTubers or just people that don't have the same, same thumbnails as everybody else, right? At 12 o'clock on every Thursday morning, you can guarantee that the same 6 reviewers are going to have their embargo dropped review up. And I'm like, who else am I missing from this, round robin of usual suspects?
We're the poor souls just wandering around the back alleys of YouTube, putting out a review to 5 people.
And I think you might have been one of the people that I had kind of poked around the lesser known channels. And I think you're way more popular now than when I found you maybe 10 years ago. And I remember thinking, like, way back when, like, I like the cut of this guy's jib. He has good production value. He's very funny. He's well edited, and his opinions mostly line up with mine. I think we'll get into some of that tonight with our top 10s. But it was like, I like this guy. And I think being sort of egotistical, I was immediately like, I not only like this guy, I can help him. I'm more popular. So immediately I'm like, let's work together. And I recognized an opportunity. And I've done that a few times. It's mostly for my own selfish benefit. Like, I want to know more about this person. And since I'm in a position of like higher popularity, I'm just going to blatantly be like, I want to work with you. Why will you? And I think you were like,
you have no say in it, right? It's
like, right. And it's like, you don't really have a reason to say no. So yeah, we did something. I think we've reviewed like Fast and Furious 4 or 5, like early on.
The movie feuds format, which
and
I brought back. You'll have to come on for a movie feud.
I would love to.
One of these lives. I know there's at least 2 movies that we completely disagree on: The Last Jedi and Avatar 2. I don't know if I could watch Avatar 2 even for a debate with you because it's so long.
So wait, do you like Avatar 1 but not 2?
Yes. And now, even kind of like The Last Jedi, Avatar 1 has lost a little bit of its luster because of where it goes. But also, I do think Avatar is really a movie theater experience, pretty much full stop. So when I own Avatar on Blu-ray, and I genuinely can't get through that movie. I've tried several times, and it loses me halfway through, and I just stop it.
That's disappointing. I'm inclined to agree that it loses luster at home. It's like an 8 out of 10. But when you get to see it in IMAX 3D high frame rate, that shit is just like transformative. I'm like, oh my God, I'm on another planet. There's moments there's moments where my brain literally momentarily forgets where I am. And I'm like, oh, there's that moment like when you wake up from a nap and you're like disoriented, you don't know where you are. Avatar is like that, but for 3 hours. I'm like, wait. I'm still in a theater at a furniture store in Massachusetts. I'm not actually on Pandora, but for a few like microseconds, my brain is tricked.
That's right.
It's completely fooled, and I love that sensation.
I have that experience every once in a while in a much more dangerous scenario. I'll be driving for several hours, and out of nowhere, I won't remember doing those previous hours of driving. I'll just be like, "What? Where am I? How long have I been driving for?"
That can be really scary. That out of body disassociation where you're like, wait, I'm turning off the highway. I don't even remember.
I'm in my bedroom.
Exits. Yeah. I mean, that's just anyone who works, 5 days a week with a regular commute kind of knows that feeling that by the end you're just like numb to the world and nothing matters.
Have you been on the, not to dwell on Avatar, but have you been on the Avatar ride at
No, and
okay.
I'm so disappointed. Last time I went to Disney World was like 13, 14 years ago, right before it opened in, I want to say 2010 or 11, like right after the movie.
Yeah, you'll
And
want to
I've heard so much about it. I've heard it's great. And I'm
it really
hoping
is. You want to talk about an out of body experience? That one you truly feel for a couple minutes that you're just flying around. And what's really crazy is, and I know Cameron's been working on Avatar 2 for a decade. The ride itself actually has a lot of stuff from the sequel in it, because they've been working on it a long time. He was able to kind of put some of that in. Yeah, so a lot of the water stuff is actually in there. He basically made a teaser inside of this ride for the second
the ride
film.
was a proof of concept, really. It was like, here's what I'm gonna do, and he has that much. He's the only dude who can cash ego checks.
Yes,
where he can do the Babe Ruth, right? So he's gonna point to center field and be like 2.3 billion. Yeah, fuck you. You already did that twice. And he's like, watch me, and he does it again.
And you and I joked for several years about Cameron's Avatar 2 coming out, and we kept laughing at people online who were saying it was going to bomb. Like, you foolish fools, never go against Cameron. It finally got to me. Just only 6 months before it came out, COVID had happened. The theaters were empty, basically. Yeah. And I was even feeling it. I'm like, it's going to fail. He needs to make what? Almost $1 trillion for success. It's not going to happen. I put out that video, and then sure enough, he completely destroys the box office revenue.
To be fair, the video where you predicted Avatar would bomb, or however you phrased it, seemed to me a bit tongue-in-cheek, and I don't think you had a lot of faith in your prediction. It was like, I could see this happening.
It was a doom and gloom scenario. I didn't want it to fail. I wanted it to do really well for the state of theaters in general, because I like going to the theaters. But I was a little bit concerned, and I shouldn't have been, because in Cameron we always should trust. You don't.
I put together per the homework for today's live stream here.
Mm-hmm.
I expanded my top 50 movies on Letterboxd, and there's like 6 James Cameron movies in here.
Oh my God!
This guy for me has done no wrong. I have not, admittedly, ever seen Piranha 2, but the other movies,
the spawning, is that what it's called? The spawning,
or the respawning of his other movies. The worst one for me is the first Terminator, and that's still like an excellent film.
I think
of all the movies that.
Yeah, I think I'd probably put Abyss under Terminator, and I love the Abyss also.
Yeah, that, like, his worst movie for me is like a 9 out of 10. It's incredible.
It's a good body of work.
How consistent he's been for 39 years, and yet he's really only made like 6 films.
I was going to say, I think the consistency comes with the time it's taking to make them. He has 7 films or 8 films, and meanwhile Spielberg still knocks out quite a few.
Yes. And
anyway,
Spielberg
I think we'll.
Slump.
Oh God, I think we'll start. We'll do the top 10, and we're gonna. How this is gonna work is, John and I both have a top 10 on Letterboxd. John, as you said, his goes to 50 now. I am actually working on a top 100 list, but it's coming and going for me. I have to have these like premonitions of what I want to put on, and it's a whole, like we've been saying, an out-of-body experience where I have to kind of go into my own dream, my own head, and figure out what I want to do. But we're going to go back and forth. We're going to start with 10. I'll present mine, he'll present his, and then we'll just, make our way down to 1. And then afterwards, John, if you want, we can kind of graze over some of the other movies on your list. If you
that'd be, because I feel like the more interesting discussion is like the 30 through 50.
30 through 50.
The top 10 is such a basic white boy millennial list. It's like, it's the most basic.
Yeah.
And like, spoiler alert, 4 of the movies are visible on my screen now. Like, it is not, they're not going to be any big surprises.
You don't he doesn't have a Medina movie on there, or the
Legally Blonde 2 is my number 11.
The most critically underrated movie of all time.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay, well, with that out of the way, if there's nothing else you have, I guess we can get started. Actually, you know what? I'm going to say one more thing. I'm going to pitch something really quick. Let me get the tab up. All right, so John, if you didn't know, boom, right here. I have a Patreon, patreon.com/AdamDoesMovies. And one of the tiers, Mithril, allows you to request one of these epic rants. Lately, I should actually change the name to roast because that's kind of how I've been branding it. Lately, I've been doing these 15 to 20
Expert
some.
sever. Yeah.
Lately, I've been doing these long form roasts where I go through the entire film and just completely destroy it. I think it plays to my strength as hopefully a little bit funny. And I have a good time doing them, even though they take a good amount of time to make. So anyway, you can become a, quote unquote producer by going through this list and choosing one. Now, these were picked by the community, and it's an
list.
Yeah, it's an ever-growing list. And I should say, John, some of these I actually don't hate, but I would still love to do them. Like I think the Flash is on here, and I like the Flash.
I thought the new Flash was really good. I was so surprised. I wasn't too surprised that it bombed. Actually, I did think it would do well, but I didn't think it would like blow up. But yes, some of these are good movies. The Lone Ranger. I will fight to the death anyone who says the Lone Ranger is a bad movie.
I'm gonna remove Jaws from the list. The Revenge, Jaws 4, because I just put that out today, so that one's gone. We're gonna remove that film.
I will say very quickly. Yeah, and not to blow smoke up your ass. Your Jaws video, which I did just watch before this stream, is one of the best things I think you've ever uploaded.
Oh wow!
I swear to God, the jokes and the puns, you were on fire with that. I think it's partially the format where you're setting up jokes and then immediately paying off the actual scene in the movie. I think that format where you go chronologically through a movie and just picking apart the absurdity of the story serves your style of humor really well.
I appreciate that. That's the goal with it. I also did one on Cats already, which I'm really proud of, and Alien 3. Even if you like Alien 3, there's plenty to make fun of.
I don't.
No, I don't either. 3. And John, here's an annoying thing. So this list is sorted alphabetically by Letterboxd, and they put Aeon Flux at the bottom, presumably because the A is a. I don't like that though. That bothers me.
Well, you can always just change it yourself.
That's work that I don't want to do. Okay.
I will say, looking at this list quickly here, there's at least a dozen of those that I've reviewed on Movie Night way back when. Because every year, right around the beginning of the summer season, I would take a look at the IMDb like bottom 100 and pick 5 movies and just do worst movies of all time, part 1, part 2, part 3. And I reviewed on my years on YouTube at least 15 or 20 of those bottom 100. And that was always fun and always a bit torturous. Like Justin DeKelly, The Hottie and the Naughty, Movie 43, Food Fight.
Hottie. Thank you.
Some of those are like decent background TV kids movies. Like Justin DeKelly is not terrible. If my
I've never seen it.
Yeah, if like my daughter wanted to watch that, I'd be like, all right, it's fine.
I added The Hottie and the Naughty.
The Naughty and the Hottie, that one is like aggressively bad and offensively.
Is there any others? While you're here that you would like added? I can throw 1 or 2 more on for you. Otherwise,
let me really quick. I'm just going to look at the 62 movies I've rated a half star in Letterboxd, and let's see, Super Babies, Baby Geniuses.
I have that on there. Yep,
I think that one's a fun one to review. If you don't have Birdemic or Troll 2. Those are classic, like so bad they're good. Theodore Rex.
Let me get
with Whoopi Goldberg. That is a movie.
I brought that movie up several times, and I think I forgot. I think I forgot to add it. So I'm gonna put Theodore Rex. Yeah, where she's a cop with a literal dinosaur.
But like, it's never explained. It's just this is the world you're dropped into, and it's like this is normal here.
Yeah, of course.
There's
what was the other one you said before Theodore Rex?
Birdemic.
Birdemic, yes. I've not seen Birdemic. I've seen clips of it. Is it one word? Birdemic?
Yes. One D. Birdemic. Yeah.
Birdemic. Okay.
That's from 2000.
So there's a couple of them. 3 of them.
Oh yeah. Yeah. They tried to capitalize on like the
schlockiness.
The ironic cult appeal of the original, and it was not a great idea.
Okay, so the first one is the one to do. I assume I put The Room on here, but if I didn't, I might as well add that. That's kind of a touchstone.
That is absolutely one of my favorite bad movies. I still think it's a half star, but I also think it's rewatchable. It's in that weird where it goes so far at the bad end of the scale that like it loops back around to being good again. And The Room is one of those movies that is simultaneously perfect and terrible at the same time.
Of course, yes.
I feel like half a dozen Steven Seagal or Jean-Claude Van Damme movies would be fun to do.
Yeah.
Like those,
The Glimmer
like
Man and
the ones towards the late '90s when they both started going direct to video.
Yeah.
Not the early '90s when they were legitimately decent. But yeah, I could give you Bad Movie Rex all night. It's
beautiful.
Truly one of my guilty pleasures.
Well, hopefully, and you're gonna think this transition's beautiful. Hopefully you think this is a good one and not a bad one. I botched it. Okay, we have The Thing. This is my number. Why isn't it taking up the full screen? Come on, get with it.
Because it is the aspect ratio.
Get with it. We'll just do that. Yeah, the aspect ratio is garbage. And then look at the background logo. I don't like how it's getting cut off. Let me go to I don't have the stock one up there. Well, it is what it is, I guess, for this. Okay, here we have The Thing, directed by John Carpenter. He's done, some films. Yeah, he's done a couple of little ditties like Halloween. You may have heard of that flick. He did one that I didn't hate, and a lot of people do. I got to look it up because now I'm forgetting what it's called. Escape from LA. I think that movie is the perfect amount of schlock. Escape from LA.
Do you like Escape from New York?
Not as much, to be honest with you. And I know that's the serious, more gritty one. I kind of like it, LA.
I'm inclined to agree. LA is more fun. Steve Buscemi's in it. There's a sequence where they're surfing down the LA River.
Yes.
On a tidal wave, and there's a car, and it's very silly. It's actually remarkable that the same guy that did Halloween, and The Thing, and then he turned around and did just Escape from LA, which is just like a schlocky love letter to bad Hollywood cinema. But
it really is. My favorite part is when Kurt Russell has no time on the clock and he has to make a full court shot and he just chucks it and you see the ball perfectly, cascade right into the hoop the last second. It's just poetry.
Both movies have a sequence where he has to do this impossible athletic sports feat, and then he just does, and there's not.
Yeah, there's no reason why.
The movie just fully embraces this is a movie, this is our reality, and there's not going to be. You're just have to suspend your disbelief. The Thing is great. Sell me on why I should rewatch this because I only gave it an 8 out of 10.
Okay, this movie has staying power. It's incredibly creepy. You're isolated in Antarctica with just a few dudes. They've been there for a long time, so emotion and intensity is already at max. And to make things worse, to make a bad scenario even badder, as no one says, because that's broken English, there is an alien amongst them. What separates this from your standard alien thing is it's more along the lines of what's that not Kurt Russell, what's the Donald Sutherland film back in the day? You like how yes, The Invasion of the Body Snatchers. You like how I go, what's going to separate this from everything else? And then I immediately pivot to it's just like this movie. It has a little bit of Invasion of the Body Snatchers where you don't actually know who's human and who's an alien. It could be anybody, but it's just a very unnerving film. And the reason I like it is the setting is great. It holds up beautifully for a film that came out in 1982. The ending is the part that I think takes it from an 8 to a 10 instantly because it's not a happy ending. You have Kurt Russell and Keith David marooned now in Antarctica in the middle of nowhere. Everyone else is dead. And we don't know if one or both of these dudes is the Thing or neither. Maybe the aliens are free, but regardless, they're going to die no matter what. So the ending's up to interpretation, but the interpretation's a pretty bad one no matter what. And I like that kind of sad, depressing ending because for me, a true horror film isn't pure unless the ending is a little bit dire, a little bit.
Haunting. There's a lot of really good horror movies that end with just really terrible. Not terrible endings in an artistic sense, but terrible for the characters. I'm thinking of like Hereditary, which is one of my favorite horror movies that I've seen in the last few years. And that ending is not like warm. It's not like it's not friendly. Not. It's just like, oh, this is worse than I could have possibly imagined. This is nightmare fuel. And then it just goes to black. It's like, oh, all right, that's where we're going to leave our characters, just in this absolute hellscape of psychological terror. Okay, great. Yeah, and the same thing with The Thing. I do remember. I haven't seen it in 9 years. But I do remember yeah, there's that final shot where they're just sort of resigned to, I guess
Yeah.
this is our life now, is constantly
Right.
doubting the other person, never trusting anything.
Right.
And do they ever
no
fall
one.
asleep? Yeah, right. And it seems like they're just going to stay awake for as long as possible is kind of the way
Yeah.
we leave them.
And the other thing that makes it kind of hold the test of time is the practical effects work run rampant through this thing. The puppeteering, the animatronics, all state of the art, top tier. I mean, you get shots of a dude's stomach opening up and then just ripping a guy's arms off. The head falls off the table, then spiders across the ground. It's nightmare fuel, as you said, but in the best way possible. They did a new version of the thing, I want to say a decade back, so it's not new anymore, but Mary Elizabeth Winstead's in it. I never saw it, so I can't speak to it, but I don't know why you would try to perfect something that's already achieved perfection.
Had no idea that existed. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you.
I know you like Mary J.E.
How,
Mary J.W.
besides the obvious fact that she's a smoke show, how did you know that? I don't think I've told anyone. I don't know if we've talked about her.
I guess we're kind of both in the same boat as far as our appreciation from anyone that's a woman in Hollywood.
Yeah. No,
it really doesn't take anything more than that.
I'm reasonably easy to please in that respect. No, you're correct. But I'm like, I don't remember talking about her, but no, I do like her.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right, John, you wanna go to your number 10? Let's bring it up.
So this is a bit of an oddball pick because I just swapped it out this morning when I didn't like my original pick, which was Rocky 1. This is kind of a good tie between Rocky 1 and Rocky 2, but I think the second one is a touch better, and I think that's because it has the better ending. The first one is a realistic ending. The second one is like, nah, screw it. Let's give him everything he wants. And I kind of love that. I think the montage in this movie is stronger. I think the emotional ride that Rocky goes on from that's sort of the place at the beginning of the movie where he's tied Apollo Creed and he needs to really set himself apart and try to go back, do a rematch, and win. And throughout it all, Adrian gets sick and goes to the hospital. They're trying to have a kid. There's this like emotional family drama. I think the stakes in this movie are a little bit heightened. I think the production value is better. And I think the artistry is just improved. And it's basically like a carbon copy of the first one's formula, but everything about it has been tweaked and improved just enough for, at least in my opinion, to kind of give that the edge in terms of 1/2. But they're both brilliant films, the ultimate underdog story. I love a good movie where good people win. And I'm just a total sucker for that schlocky Hollywood romanticized idea of good man does hard work and gets good thing. I will watch that every day.
Blue collar.
You can't watch Rocky and like not feel good by the end of it. Like it is impossible.
He's a blue collar, salt of the earth guy that had nothing going for him until he made. I mean, it's really Stallone too, right? Both of these characters are so intertwined because they both were down in their luck.
A little bit of the autobiographical nature to it, and then by the fourth sequel, things become geopolitical and a little larger than life.
I'd say the third one's where it really goes Looney Tunes. It's so funny when that one fires up. Stallone's in full bore Nike gear. He's fighting Hulk in the is it Hulk Hogan? Is that the third one too?
Hulk Hogan and Mr. T. Yeah.
This is supposed to be a charity match. He's throwing him. I have two questions for you on Rocky 2, because all these movies, I've seen them a million times. They've all blended into one giant, amalgamation of a guy boxing. But is 2 the one where he trains in the pool and he has to get faster? He's doing all the water aerobic exercises, or am I mixing that up with 3?
I think that might be 3 when he's in LA with Apollo.
Okay, I love that one so much.
The big difference in 2, every one of them has a training montage.
Yeah, of course, yes.
Except for 5, which is why 5 sucks. Even the Creed movies were like
5 has a training montage.
It does? Well, I've just blocked it out of my memory then.
Well, unfortunately, the training montage isn't with Stallone. It's with Tommy Gunn and his son. They have that little, whatever. Anyway.
Yeah, no, it is dumb. In 2, the big difference is he does the same training and he runs down Philadelphia Boulevard up the art museum steps. The difference is in the second movie, he's just followed by a throng of children all cheering and trying to keep up. And I love that image. of just the entire town of Philadelphia cheering him on. It's a really, in the first movie, he's sort of him against the world. And the second one, it's like everyone against Apollo.
Yes. All the
Which
underdogs are rising up.
Yeah, right. It's a great it's great imagery.
My second question of the two, and this again might be mixing up with one. One of them has a painstakingly long finale, but in a good way, where they keep falling down. Like Stallone gets knocked down, he slowly gets up, then Creed goes down. Is that the first one or the second one?
I'm not gonna lie, that sounds like many of them. I think it's the first one.
Okay.
I don't remember though.
One of them, I just felt like it was just non-stop going down, and you're yelling, you're at the edge of your seat.
There's
like
a lot of slow motion for sure.
Yeah. Okay. I feel like it's the second one.
It might be.
I have to watch it again. The bottom line is I have to watch them all again because it's been a couple of years, and
I've gone through all. Well, I still actually haven't seen Creed 3 yet, but of the original 6, I've watched all 6 of those 3 or 4 times each. Almost always as a 6-movie weekend marathon.
Creed 3 was good. I do think it's the weakest of the 3 Creed films, but it's still a solid movie. It's not near as insulting as like Rocky 5 or Rocky Balboa. I know people praise that one. That movie is boring as shit.
Not a lot. It's definitely more of an introspective.
Yeah, but
it feels more like an epilogue than a proper movie, if that makes sense.
It does feel like an epilogue, and it's an epilogue that involves these really boring new characters. The girl down the street, she has no personality at all. I didn't care about it. John. But Rocky 2, very good pick. It's very respectable. It belongs on the list. I get it.
What do you have at your 10 spot?
All right, let's go to 9. Let's go to 9.
That's what I meant, 9.
Yep, let's go there. Andy Dufresne was a tall drink of water, as Red, a.k.a. Morgan Freeman, would tell us as this movie fires up and we get to prison. I think The Shawshank Redemption is a incredibly quotable, lovely, sad roller coaster ride of emotions that ceases to end even when the film is done. It stays with you. Everybody has seen this movie, and the people that haven't really have no business watching movies, as far as I'm concerned.
Is this still the #1 highest rated movie on IMDb?
I don't know. I didn't actually realize that was a thing. But
if it isn't now, it has been for a exceptionally long time. I'm going to double check. It is number 9 on the Letterboxd Top 250, and it is #1 on IMDb, and I think it has been pretty much since the inception of that website 30 years ago. It has been a mainstay of the top 5, if not the actual crown spot.
I mean, it's incredibly hard to, really find a fault with it. First off, it's based on a book by Stephen King, who's a decent author, I believe. He's done some okay.
I've heard of him too. Yeah,
I've heard of some of his stuff. It's the same guy that, of course, this was after, but The Green Mile, the director of The Mist, which I absolutely love. Another one with a brutal ending. And Jim Carrey.
One of the best endings, or worst, depending.
Yes, I agree. I fully agree. I think he did The Majestic too. The Majestic? Oh, yeah, there it is. Look, The Majestic, Jim Carrey. I'm going to be honest. I don't love The Majestic.
I have never heard of The Majestic.
Really?
I don't want to undersell how surprising it is when someone mentions a movie that stars somebody like Jim Carrey, directed by somebody like Frank Darabont, released in my lifetime, and I've never heard of it.
2001.
I don't want to undersell how exceptionally rare and surprising and delighted that makes me feel. When someone mentions a movie and I'm like, how do I not? I know every movie. I've seen 5,000 of them. How have I never heard of this one?
I'm very happy about this because I think you'll enjoy the movie. Don't get me wrong. It's not bad. It's definitely a good watch. It's just not. I was expecting greatness from the guy that did Shawshank. You got Jim Carrey, fresh off of The Truman Show. I believe Spotless Mind was before this too. So he was already kind of dipping his toe in the drama, and Jim Carrey can do it.
I am going to watch this for sure.
Oh my God, John, it's about rebuilding a movie theater.
I love it.
I don't know how you missed this.
I don't either. It's not just that I've not seen it. I've never even heard of it.
Wow. Okay. Well, there you go. Something fun for everyone.
Shawshank is brilliant. Though. This is actually This is not on my top 10 because it's like number 12. It's just outside. I really need to rewatch it. I haven't seen it in probably 10 years. But when I first saw it 20 years ago, I was, I think, as you described, basically speechless. Like I sat through the entire credits, just like, oh my God, that was like life affirming. It's the kind of movie that just absolutely like washes through you in the best way. And yeah, it is very well deserved of all of its accolades. And
It's probably the
you
most
can't watch
feel
that movie
good.
and it's the most feel good movie ever.
Yeah,
You
I
can't
think
you can't come away with that without having this triumphant sense of accomplishment and justice and satisfaction and reward. Especially like the movie is so good for 2 hours, but the final 15 minutes is just like every single payoff, like dominoes, and it's like they're just
Well, and not only the
clicking.
payoff, but the damn near horror story they start to paint. You know, you think,
Yeah,
oh my
right.
God, Red is gonna hang himself like the other guy did, or Andy's not, he's gonna get caught, or everything has the potential to be absolute disaster
No,
for these
it's an
two guys.
excellent misdirect, and then they just
Yes.
completely turn it. And that's not to give away the ending, but the ending is kind of a twist in a way.
Yeah.
I mean, like the title sort of suggests what's going to happen, but I went into the movie blind. I didn't know anything about it. I watched it in a theater at like a rescreening in like the early 2000s, and I had no idea how it was going to end. And I genuinely thought, based on the tenor of the rest of the movie, oh, this isn't going to go well. This is going to have like a really tragic, sad
Yeah.
ending
Yeah.
where like one of the two, Andy, or one of them is going to die, and the other one's going to just try to move on with his life. And the movie's going to be about grief but it's not. And I was like, yes, this is so good. I loved it.
Yeah,
So I
even in
still
the
do.
final moments when Andy's on the beach and he sees him across the way, he sees Red. I was just looking for a car to come out of nowhere and just freaking, hey, like they've done in 1,000 movies. No, absolutely brilliant film. Had to be on here. One of my favorite dramas of all time. We do have a super chat coming in from Jonathan for $5. He says, I'm a fan of underappreciated movies that surprise me, like The Man from Earth and Stay.
Fucking banger. That is a
Or
fantastic film.
which one? The Man from Earth?
Yes, it's so good.
I've never seen it.
I reviewed it on my channel, I don't know, 5-6 years ago, and I recreated a scene from the movie because I loved it so much. That is a heady, high concept sort of teleplay, for lack of a better word.
My God. What
5
year
actors.
Is it old?
It was like 2003, 2004, something like that.
What?
It was made on like $10,000 budget. There's only 5 actors. They're all in a single room for the whole movie, and it's mostly just dialogue. It's just basically a 12 Angry Men kind of situation, but with a really neat, meaty sci-fi concept. And I love the way that movie unravels and the direction of the conversation. Yeah, The Man from Earth gets
2007. Interesting.
Yeah, I would give that my biggest recommendation if you like a good thinker.
Sure. And if you don't like a good thinker, you have Starship Troopers, which he also put on here. That's a very fun, I mean, I guess it is kind of a thinker because on its face, it seems like it's a schlocky action sci-fi propaganda film. But underneath, it's a schlocky sci-fi propaganda film, but in the other way around. I mean, it's making fun of itself. It's making fun of the entire concept. And I did love the idea that the guys that are supposedly the heroes are actually, the villains taking out this race of bugs that really is minding their own business.
I went back and rewatched Starship Troopers during the pandemic, and it's phenomenal. It's
Did I get that right, by the way, John? Is that right? I mean, I haven't seen it in a long time, but from what I remembered, the bugs weren't bad necessarily.
No, they're really not. That's sort of the entire conceit of Paul Verhoeven's script is the humans are the bad people because we're going to their planet and eradicating them, and the whole time they're just trying to defend themselves. And it's a really great kind of twist on the alien invasion movie because in this movie we're the eradicators, we're the bad guys.
That's right.
And it's so good. It's probably the only good thing Casper Van Dien's ever done. But hey, that can be his claim to fame, right? One good movie is all you need. Same thing with Denise Richards, for that matter. I don't know that she's really, I mean, Wild Things, I guess, that one Bond movie, but she's been in a lot of crap.
She's been in a lot of crap, that's for sure. All right, you know what's not crap? Your number 9. Are we really only on 9?
Yeah, we should
Jesus.
speed this up.
Yeah, let's speed up. Let's stop getting sidetracked unless people bring in super chats, which are absolutely appreciated.
Yeah.
All right, John, Nakatomi Plaza.
Yeah, Die Hard. My number 9 pick. The only movie I have consistently watched every single Christmas for my entire adulthood. I think if you go to my letterbox and sort by activity, it's just December 24th, all the way down to like 2004. I've watched this pretty much every single year without fail. And the only other movie I've done that with is Independence Day. Obviously on its titular day. And there's a big reason for that. It isn't just that it takes place on Christmas Eve, and it is, in my opinion, a Christmas movie.
It's a Christmas movie. Yeah.
It is so very rewatchable, and I don't know what makes it so, because I already obviously know every single line of dialogue backwards and front. But the Die Hard might be the most perfect screenplay in the history of cinema. There's not a wasted minute. There is not a wasted line. There is not a single hole or like plot development that doesn't completely. Everything about it is airtight, except for the fact that an ambulance comes out of a previously empty 18-wheeler. Besides that, it is an airtight script, and the progression of this just reluctant hero who is forced, wrong place, wrong time, to save all these people. And the whole time he's saving them, he's just like, God damn, this sucks. I want to go home. And I love that trope of this guy who just doesn't want to even be the hero. And everyone else loved the trope so much, we got an entire decade of Die Hard on a boat, Die Hard on a train, Die Hard on a plane.
Yeah, it was the John Wick of our generation.
Yeah, right, precisely. But it is. I think when you strip away other genres and magic powers and capes and time travel, Die Hard is the quintessential best action movie ever made. I think there are maybe better movies with action, but they usually have other elements. Like flying capes or time travel or whatever, but like just movies rooted in reality. I can't think of an action movie I like more than this one.
I mean, I fully agree. I'm almost positive it's on my list at some point in the future, and I think it's even higher up. So we'll just spend our time now. The thing that's so good about Die Hard is not even the fact that it works as a full film and a story, but there's these tiny little moments everywhere in the picture that really make it stand out. The guy grabbing a crunch bar while he's about to shoot the SWAT team, just, do I have time? Do I have time to get it? They didn't need to add the little personality to the extra villains, but they did. And that's what makes it
I think that's not to be understated, because a lot of people saw this, a lot of Hollywood people saw this and took the wrong lessons from it. It wasn't just, small scale environment. That wasn't why it worked. It was the artistry, the way that McTiernan filmed it. The music is really great. They weave in motifs of like Beethoven's Ode to Joy throughout the score. Obviously, the late Alan Rickman is fantastic as the villain. And then there's all those just little quirky lines of dialogue where John is calling the police. And they're like, "Sir, you'll have to get off. This is a clear." No fucking shit, lady. Does it sound like I'm ordering a
fucking pizza? Everything Ellis says is 100% pure uncut gold. Get in the Coke, pour in it. Hans, booby, I'm your white knight. Guy upstairs is fucking things up. I can give him to you or something. I'm paraphrasing.
That's it. That's exactly it. And I can do it because I've seen it fucking 20 times already.
You use a gun, I use a fountain pen. But again, every character's like this. Argyle, the computer hacker, oh my God, the quarterback is toast. Everybody has a line. The SWAT team member, the FBI agents, he's shooting.
I think that's what so few movies do well today.
Yes.
Is even the people with a small amount of screen time, like Robert Davi plays one of the two Johnson agents from the FBI, right?
Okay.
Robert Davi probably has 2 minutes of screen time in this.
Yeah.
But with just a couple lines and a couple beats of inflection, you immediately get that this guy is a prick. He's an a-hole. He's egotistical, and he kind of knows his shit. Where the little Johnson is like, hey, just like Saigon, Slick, and he's like, I was at junior high, you dickhead. And you immediately get like their repertoire. You get like sort of where they're coming from, and they really only have maybe 10 lines of dialogue between those two guys, but they're
Yeah.
such memorable characters. I feel like most movies today, they're just like, they would cast some big name and then do nothing with it.
It's
I
almost a
love that.
disservice. It's almost a disservice to say this is lightning in a bottle for a movie, because that kind of discredits the talent agency that brought on, you know, Willis and cast Alan Rickman, and the script and the cinematography. But there is no way any of this works without everything falling into place like this. I mean, you have Bruce Willis coming off of what, Moonlighting? They thought he was the worst pick possible. Alan Rickman's been in nothing, and they wanted to fire him 2 or 3 times throughout the production because he was so weird and quirky as a villain. I mean, every movie before this, the villain is this stoic, you know, twirling mustache, and he has a mustache, but they didn't play it the way Alan Rickman does. He has a suaveness to him.
He's just smart, and he doesn't even, he's not even like evil. He's just like, this is a means to an end for me, and I don't care. Yeah. And that sort of aloof intelligence is such a, I don't know, refreshing change of pace for an action genre that heretofore had just been like big muscly Dr. No types that are just mustache twirling. I'm going to just blow you up with my strength. And it's like, well, this guy, when it finally comes to blows, like Alan Rickman gets his face kicked in pretty quick. Like, it isn't really a contest, because it's not about that.
Oh man, I'm lost in thinking about the movie and all the little moments. They're shooting at John McClane, and he says in German, whatever he says, and the guy's like, "Huh? Shoot the glass." He has to say it in English for him to understand. Hilarious, absolutely perfect.
I do wonder if you were to wipe my memory and I would go back to this, how much of those little lines would kind of resonate with me if I didn't have them all memorized. But yeah, Die Hard is a pretty fantastic film.
All right, let's get to the number 8. And at some point again, this covered one of my slots as well, so we're going a little quicker, maybe. All right, in my number 8 spot, a very generic paint by numbers movie that most people have on their list, and it's for a reason. Sometimes you put the greatest hits on your list, and that's The Empire Strikes Back, 1980 follow-up to what, 76?
7.
Is that 77? Star Wars: A New Hope. Was it called A New Hope when it came out?
No.
I can never keep track of any of this. It was just Star Wars, right?
It was just Star Wars.
Okay. This one no longer
be careful who you admit that to in mixed company, because the proper Star Wars fans will hoist you up a flagpole if you're like, it was Star Wars. They will get very upset if you call it Episode 4. Or some people are purists about that.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit. I know the difference. But
George Lucas has the manuscripts in his ranch, and it says right on there, Blue Harvest, Episode 1.
Yeah.
Okay.
Empire's great. I don't even know if we need to talk about Empire, because it is just so clearly, it's such an obvious.
Everybody's seen it. Even people that don't like Star Wars have seen Empire, and they go, yeah, that was actually pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, this is the movie that gave us the Imperial March. It gave us AT-ATs. It gave us Yoda. It gave us Boba Fett. It gave us probably the biggest and best plot twist in the history of the medium.
Absolutely.
And certainly in the history of like fantasy sci-fi. There might be better twists in other movies, but the Darth Vader reveal is phenomenal. And for my money, still to this day, 43 years removed, some of the best visual effects practically accomplished ever.
Yeah.
I mean, they did stuff as if to show off. They were like, let's do an entire act on a white background. Let's do everything on snow. Like, you can't hide the matte lines. You can't hide the compositing.
No, let's have them fly around fucking miniatures. Let's have planes fly around miniatures. That's insane.
Like when they did the first one, doing it all on black sky, you can kind of hide some of the compositing work, which at the time was done on hand cut celluloid. They're just cutting this out and like doing double exposure with mats and reliefs.
Yeah, they don't even have green screen going on here yet. And even
I think they might have
they did for the ships, for the pilot, scenes. Yeah. But some of the other shots, like you said, they're having to go frame by frame through these things and cut them out. I'm sure, John, you've used green screens a lot. Even we've dealt with, you pop yourself in a black background, empty, you don't have a background, and then you instantly put in something that's a little lighter, and you see all the artifacting and crap everywhere. It's like, oh my God, this is terrible.
That's actually how I would test the quality of my Kias. I would swap my red movie theater background for just a white
Yeah.
just a clean white matte. And you would, all right, well, there's a shadow, there's a wrinkle. That's the edge of the key right there. So I got to change that.
There's my
And
son. There's my
yeah,
other kid. How did they
and I
get
was like,
here?
well,
I don't know.
that's the filter you use to spot mistakes. And they were like,
Right.
what if we fucking filmed the movie with that? Like, that's just it was such a flex
It's
to
bold.
do an entire section of the movie on snow. And it looks great. The sound design is so good. Probably the best soundtrack in John Williams'
my
career.
God, yeah. The Imperial
Maybe
March.
it's either this or Jurassic Park. I'm not sure. He's real good.
I love it, John. You're like, we don't need to spend any time on this, and then you just immediately shot out of a can and praised it for 5 minutes, and I love it. No, I love it.
Oh, one thing I do want to mention as a little bit of trivia: the late great Treat Williams, who we just lost a few weeks ago, plays a snow rebel in the Battle of Hoth in the trenches, and he bites it because an AT-AT shoots him at some point.
Is this one of those cameo type things?
He's listed in the credits, but he's not. But this was like his first movie, so it's not a cameo.
Oh, okay. I was like, is this like a Daniel Craig thing? Because I know he was a stormtrooper in one of the later Star Wars movies.
Treat Williams was like a 23-year-old nobody in 1980.
Oh, wow. All right.
But if you look close, it's like, hey, I know that guy from those other movies from 20 years later.
Well, I'm glad you were able to, kind of praise this one, because I just looked at the next movie on your list, and this might be our first little debate.
Oh, good.
And let's go there now. Let's go there.
And I moved.
Is this your number 8?
This is my number 8, and I moved it into this spot earlier today. One, because I knew it would give a good discussion between you and I. And two, because when I thought about it, I genuinely think this is a top 10 movie for me. It is the only film I have seen in theaters 5 different times in 5 different years. And every single time, including the recent release earlier this year for the 25th anniversary, I still cry. I am still absolutely like floored with goosebumps and just the rush of suspense and thrills in the final act.
You cry because I assume Kate couldn't move over for DiCaprio.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Just move over.
And I still not ashamed to admit still get sexually aroused from the drawing scene because Kate Winslet is a fox.
Yeah,
this is a movie that it has everything for me, and I don't the romance stuff I think genuinely works. I am genuinely moved by it. Leo is in top form. James Cameron literally built a life-size replica of the boat to film it. The artistry involved, the way they pulled it all off, the music, the production. Just soup to nuts, one of the most impressive movies ever made. And the fact that it still looks better than, like, I watched Titanic, and then the next week I went out and saw like The Flash or whatever, and it's like, this Titanic still looks 5 times better than modern day movies made for 3 times as much money.
I don't know if I would go to The Flash as the the one to compare, but I get what you're saying. It definitely holds up very well. There are some pretty comical moments, I think, in the film, but we can talk about it for a second. I will point out to people, John did not give this 3.5 stars and put it on his top 10. He's not that strict. That's my ranking, 3.5 stars. I remember, and I wasn't mature. I was in high school when this came out, but I do remember kind of laughing when dudes were ragdolling off the sides of the propeller.
Oh, you can't. Propeller guy is a.
It's. I don't know if it's supposed to be funny, but I was kind of like.
I laughed. I remember. I think the whole theater laughed.
I remember the door thing truly being frustrating as all hell, and I do understand it's the mass. It's not
buoyancy, not space.
It's the buoyancy. Listen, there are certain things that I don't care how scientifically accurate it is. You have to visualize it, and James Cameron, the master of visuals, really screwed the pooch on this.
So there was a documentary that came out this year called what was it? Back to Titanic 25 years later or something like that.
Sure.
They did one 5 years ago called 20 Years Later. Mm-hmm. This is basically a documentary that reuses a lot of the footage from that one, but it includes one new sequence, which is James Cameron methodically testing the size of the door and that conundrum. And he basically he looks right down the barrel of the lens. Is like, the Mythbusters got it wrong. They didn't do it due diligence. So we're going to get 2 actors the same height and weight and build of Kate Winslet and Leonardo. We're going to put them in a freezing cold tank with period authentic costumes, and we're going to literally bring them to the edge of hypothermia while testing the buoyancy of a door that's exactly cut to the same size. So James Cameron did the absolute best, most accurate possible test. And he came to the conclusion, no surprise, that it actually would not work. If they were both on the door, one of them would probably have to freeze because there's just too much of their body in the water for it to work. And with all of the moving around in the water beforehand, they would have already been soaking wet, right? They don't get on the door dry. They have to dry off. But what I loved is at the very end of this documentary, he basically admits, we know now we've proven that they couldn't have done it, but it's obvious that it looks like they could have. So if I had a chance to remake the movie, I would have just made the door smaller.
He can fix it with CG now. I mean,
Right.
He's got the technology. This is the point I was getting at, and you did mention it at the end after your little meandering commentary. This is a poster that came out. I don't know if you remember this, the Spielberg poster for Ready Player One.
With the super long
everybody,
leg?
Everybody was going off about the super long leg. The artist and other people came out in defense and said if he puts his other leg down, it is actually proportionate to his body. They are the same height. It doesn't matter. It looks weird. You have to have some artistic creativity. There's got to be some wiggle room. And that's where the door thing falls apart. But yes, I'm glad that Cameron at least acknowledges that fact.
Yeah, he basically admitted it scientifically, I had it correct, but visually it opened itself up for criticism and I should have just made the door smaller.
Right. And it sucks because that is a massive moment in the film that really can kind of take you out of that scene. And I remember seeing it in theaters being really frustrated at the whole scenario. Like, get on the... Even just having him struggle to get on and then showing it sink would have been enough. The movie was already, 3 hours long? We can spend 3 minutes having him go on the door and then fall off and, have to make the ultimate sacrifice, I think would have been even more, pronounced. But otherwise, Titanic for me, it's all right. I see.
When have you seen it last?
It's been a long time because I don't want to
rewatch it.
I just really don't want to watch it again is the problem.
Do it.
Okay, I will get...
Do it, Anakin.
Okay, besides the door thing, the other thing I remember not liking very much, and I did see this movie twice, once in theaters and once a couple years, I was probably out of college. The other thing I don't like is not the love story between DiCaprio and whatever, Kate Winslet. Claire Danes, whatever, the other movie with Leonardo DiCaprio. It's Billy Zane and how he's running around with a gun while the ship is sinking. It just was so ridiculous. All I was thinking is, dude,
they kind of
ship
call
is
that out.
ripping apart.
They kind of call that out by the end where he kind of acknowledges, like, what am I doing? And he kind of just throws the gun away. Like, this is a huge waste of my time. But there's definitely some sequences in the middle where it's like, are they really still trying to worry about a diamond when everyone's going to die in 8 minutes?
It does have the most dedicated strings quartet or whatever of all time. They're going down with that fucking ship. The water's coming up. Oh, fantastic. Yeah, Titanic, definitely a wonderful work of art as far as the CG goes. He built a 1/3 scale version of the ship that they had in a warehouse somewhere.
It was full scale, but only one side of it, the starboard
scale.
side.
Okay, so half of a ship to scale.
Yes. Half of it lengthwise, so just the starboard half. And when they wanted to film it, leaving Southampton, they filmed everything in reverse, so it would look like the port side of the ship. So everybody's logos, everybody's hats, everybody's signage had to be written backwards.
Brilliant.
So they could film it backwards, and then it's just crazy stuff for this movie. The making of is almost as interesting as the film. What do you have at number 7?
Yeah, I was just gonna say the speaking of water.
Dun, 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 dun.
Dun, 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 dun,
So
dun,
you
dun,
just
dun,
ripped
dun,
apart Jaws 4 earlier today.
Jaws: Revenge, yeah.
Which is not a good movie, but this is a good movie.
This is a great movie. Before I say that, Hack the Movies from Hack the Movies. This is Tony. He says, "I'm late. Did they mention that Roadhouse is the best movie ever made with Patrick? Is that Patrick Swayze?
Patrick Swayze.
All I think about now is the Family Guy Peter Griffin roadhousing people and then saying Roadhouse. He'll just roundhouse kick a dude into a table. Roadhouse. No, Tony, Roadhouse is not so far mentioned, but maybe it's on one of our top fives. Okay, Jaws. This is what, my number 7, my number 6. I don't know anymore. It doesn't matter.
It's your number 7, and it's my number 22.
Okay. All right. So you do like this movie a little bit.
Oh, I love it. It's so good.
Jaws, you want to talk about Die Hard setting the standard for action movies? Jaws set the standard for Monster of the Week, scary horror films that basically ruined sharks for everyone on the planet Earth going forward. When this movie came out in 1975, people stopped swimming in water. They were just like, I was afraid to go by my sink in the fear that a great white was going to somehow come out. True story, John. We actually had an underground pool because we're, super wealthy, of course, my family.
You're bringing in those buco YouTube bucks.
No, this is when I'm a little kid. My parents had a house in Minnesota, of all places, with an underground pool that you can use like 4 months out of the year. Mm-hmm. And I was terrified to go in it because I thought somehow a shark would be able to manifest, it's like apparate into existence inside of the swimming pool.
There's actually a movie about that. I think it's done a bit like Sharknado, like tongue in cheek, but there is a movie about a pool shark where people go in a pool and get eaten by a shark that I don't remember how it gets in and out. It's very low budget, very much in the style of like a Sharknado.
Is this a Spielberg film as well?
I assume? No, I don't think so. He might have done that one for scale if that's true. I don't think they could afford him otherwise. That's the kind of like, it's a jokey premise, but people were legitimately, this traumatized the collective populace of the world in 1975. People, I think you can literally go to like Martha's Vineyard's tourism attendance in the 1970s, and there's a precipitous like drop in 1976 because no one wanted to come back the next year after seeing this movie. And like people literally like were like, I'm not going to the island. Fuck it.
And it's generational too. It's always in the zeitgeist somehow. You had a couple years back, I feel like people were anti-Jaws because it made sharks look so bad. The environmentalists came out on Twitter.
Yeah, right.
Like, this is the worst movie ever. How dare you? How dare you make sharks these villains of the sea? And they were all boycotting, what they do, of course. They white knighted for the anti-Jaws movement. This is outside of it, making me terrified of Jaws. I thought Roy Scheider was so good as the leading man, just a no-nonsense guy. It has so many parallels to even modern times. You have the guy that's no nonsense. He sees a threat. He sees how people are reacting to the threat, and he wants to do the common sense thing for the good of the people, and that's to close the fucking beaches down to take care of the problem. You can kind of relate it to climate change if you want. You can relate it to politics. There's a lot of ways that it mirrors reality even today. And of course, you have the corruption within this small little city, this fictitious city I think is in New York. Is that where it's supposed to be?
No, the Vineyard.
Oh, it is the Vineyard. Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Martha's Vineyard.
I don't know if they filmed there, but it's supposed to be either Nantucket or the Vineyard. Yeah.
Okay. The mayor is like, no, we're keeping it open.
It's Amity Island, but it's
Amity Island. Yes. Yeah.
But it's Massachusetts.
Okay. I knew it was somewhere around there. And so then you have, these guys that have to take matters in their own hands. And you have kind of two movies here. The first half of the movie is the attacks. It's the shark, kept in the shadows in the background for multiple reasons. One, it added to the terror. What does this thing look like? How big is it? But two, they couldn't get the fucking thing to work, and it was constantly sinking. And I think most people know the history of Jaws. Another fantastic documentary movie to be told, and it has been several times. But it really played to the strength of the film, because when we did get that reveal, it was, oh my God, this thing is huge. And I'm not even noticing how kind of silly it looks because it's awesome.
Well, yeah, it's a giant animatronic, rubber puppet. I mean, if you've ever been to Universal, or if you had been to Universal prior to when they closed it, it's the same thing. It smells of gasoline, and it looks fake, and it's really rubber, and it's kind of gross looking. You can see the mechanical machinery just operating just inside.
Beep, 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 boop, boop, boop. There's a couple of people inside there moving the flippers around. But yeah, it's half of the movie is the shark terrorizing the ocean and the inhabitants, and the second half are these three guys going out to hunt this thing down. And it kind of has a Moby Dick feel in the later half where, they're out at sea for a long time. They're starting to get restless. They're turning on each other. And finally they meet their maker at the end. And it's just all around what I look for in horror films now. This is the gold standard for me is Jaws.
Now, how much do you like that first, 60, 70 minutes of the movie on Amity, where it's more of a like small town family drama meets sort of corporate stubbornness? Because for me, I enjoy that.
I do a lot.
Spielberg is obviously really good at that small town stuff, but the last 45 minutes where they're actually on Orca 2 on the ocean, that last 45 minutes is some of the best filmmaking ever done.
Yeah, I mean, Dreyfuss, I didn't even bring him up. He and Shaw are so good in this too. And the way the three of them bounce off each other and get pissed off and they start to work together. Dreyfuss's character doesn't really know much about the sea. He's the nerdy science type who's never out in the field. The way that the three play off each other works so well. And every couple of years when I watch this movie, I'm like you, John, where I appreciate all the town stuff. But then when that second half kicks in, it's like, okay, we entered a much more serious film. This is kind of outside of the Spielberg norm, I think, and it goes pretty hardcore.
You want to hear something that'll make you feel super old?
I already feel old, but sure.
Richard Dreyfuss was 28 when they made this movie.
Are you serious?
28. Actually, probably 27 when they filmed it. They probably filmed it the previous summer. Yeah.
I don't feel like I look older than him, but I mean, I guess
it's people in the 70s looked so much older than people now. Like, I think Roy Scheider is only like in his early 40s, but like that's a hard early 40 for him.
Yeah, that is really hard on all of them.
Yeah, it is. It's the other one that's probably even more of a good example is Bruce Willis is 32 in Die Hard.
Jeez.
And like he just looks so like ragged and
so rough. He's so rough.
His hairline's completely gone, and he's just like out of shape. And
he's got the cigarettes.
He's sick, and he's complaining about his family. And it's like this guy seems like he's 49, but he's only 32.
Oh my gosh! All right. On that sour note, let's go to your number 7.
We might want to punt this a bit and talk about it later if you want.
Yeah, well, we can, we can dabble. Just give me a little. I mean, it's Jurassic Park. Everybody's seen Jurassic Park, right? This is
another Spielberg movie.
Standard,
because he knows how to make good movies with interesting, compelling characters, and he knows how and when to integrate special effects sparingly and effectively. And you combine that with probably, I said it earlier, and I'm correcting myself already. This movie has the greatest score of all time.
Oh, God, it's so good.
John Williams' work on this is unparalleled. Yeah, Jurassic Park. I got the poster in my office over here. It's one of my all-time favorites.
I have the hybrid poster that's probably a third-party knockoff version where you can see it's pretty much Jurassic Park.
Put yourself on the full screen here so I can.
Yeah, this is
because I wanted to ask you about this because I always thought that was a Jurassic Park 3 poster.
It's Jurassic Park 1, but it has the embossing and stuff of like number 3.
All right, yeah, I'm glad that this has been cleared up because this whole time I thought like, wait, do you like the third one?
So, John,
like, it's not a bad movie, but like,
if I haven't told you. So this whole room before I made it a box for it. It was just blank. It was a blanket for it. There's blankets everywhere, and I was inside of there to soundproof the shit out of it. Yeah, and then at some point, I'm like, okay, I'll just fucking put foam all over the walls. So the sides you can't see are all foamed in because I have super thin walls. Anyways, in a madcap dash, because I decided to do this right before doing a live stream, I was finishing up kind of the painting and getting everything decorated, and I didn't have posters on the wall. So I went upstairs and I just straight up looted Connor, my son's posters. I took all 3 of his posters. Like, I'm sorry, I need these. And I nailed them up, and I still haven't changed them out. So
well, you should change them out, maybe to the movies we're going to talk about later tonight.
Well, I'd like to get the standards up there. You know, The Thing has a really great poster.
Yeah, absolutely.
Jurassic Park is a great poster. Not the one I have there. And I mean, I got fucking X-Men the animated series. Why? You know, it's a fine show, but it doesn't need to be
and like Into the Spider-Verse, great film. I'm
great
like, I don't know
movie,
that it's
but
one of your favorites, but it's great.
it's not. It is a good
Yeah.
poster, I will say that. But yeah, okay. Anyway, Jurassic
Conversely,
Park,
if you switch over to my camera, you again, spoiler alert for my top 3, I just have them hung up. I didn't
yeah,
try to be. I'm like, well, this is my favorite movie, so this goes up. This is my second
yeah.
favorite movie, that goes up. And it's like, well, that's how I did it.
I mean, everybody should probably have a Rocky poster in their house.
I like the Rocky 1 poster better than the Rocky 2 poster, so that's the one I have in my room here as well.
I think
Just
one
off
is a little
camera.
bit more iconic, but that's
Yeah.
fine. It's fine.
So we are on, I think, my number 6. No, your number 6.
Yeah,
Because
let's
that's
go
Jurassic
back
Park.
to-
We can go past Jurassic Park.
We'll punt. Everybody knows Jurassic Park. We'll move on.
What do you have at number 6?
I have. Well, I think you might have this one too at some point. I don't know.
Come
I
with me,
really don't
locomotive.
remember, but I'll show you.
Get down.
No, get to the chopper. That's Predator.
Let's go. Come on.
Let's go. I'll
can do
drive. Talk to the hand. Terminator 2. Another score.
Brad Fidel with that one.
I'm not familiar. Does he do a lot of scores? I don't remember
No.
that name.
No, I'm actually.
Okay.
I can quickly do a search for Brad Fidel in my music collection, and I know he's done a couple.
Okay.
Not like a. He's not icon. He's not one of the J's.
John
right?
Williams. He's not John Williams.
He's not one like for me, like the Mount Rushmore of film composers all are J's. You got your Jerry Goldsmith, your James Newton Howard, your John Williams, and then your James Newton Howard, and then what's the other one? James Horner. James Horner, James
right.
Newton Howard. Yeah. Jerry Goldsmith, John Williams, and then Michael Giacchino, and you got a couple others. But
Michael Giacchino's fantastic. Silvestri is really good.
Yep.
Okay, Terminator 2 Judgment Day. This goes without saying as well, but
so
the
concept is great. The effects are great. I think this is Arnold's obviously signature role. Some of the best blocked and choreographed action. The stuff in the LA River is probably one of the best chase sequences of all time.
Shooting the sod off as he's being,
That is like that shot of Arnold. Literally, he's not being towed. He's not a stunt double. It's not like at half speed. That's Arnold Schwarzenegger at full speed on a Harley without a helmet, driving one-handed and reloading a sawed-off shotgun in one hand and the other. And it's just like, fuck, that's so cool. That's so freaking cool. And I don't know. Again, another Jim Cameron movie because this guy knows how to make a movie just feel big and good and important.
And to your point about the gun, spinning around and shooting those 17 fences that he shoots during this chase. My son Connor, who's 11, has seen this movie. He's also seen most of the MCU films and all the new modern stuff that's larger than life. There's CG, people everywhere.
What does he think about this?
He loves Terminator 2. He freaking loves this film.
You're raising him right.
And when Arnold was shooting the fence thing, the little locks on the fence and jumping off the side, it's not like this is some amazing thing, right? It's just a guy on a motorcycle shooting the fence. But how it's shot and the way that it's just executed seems so much more cool than even Superman flying through a whole bunch of CG buildings and, using laser eyes and whatever. Because this is practically done, and there's a sense of that when you're watching a movie,
there's totally a sense of like urgency and speed, and you get this
weight. There's weight to it,
right? T-1000 is like right on their heels for the entire first 45 minutes of the movie. It's not until they get to the desert where there's like a little bit of lull in the tension, and then obviously he picks up their trail at Cyberdyne, and then the last 30 minutes, it's like he's right around the corner, and that's what gives the first movie all of its tension, and the second movie as well. It's like, what if for the entire movie he was just right next to them, about to kill them? It's like, that sounds terrifying. And they just there's so many great things about this.
This isn't the first movie to do it, but this is definitely one of the first ones I recall doing it right. And that's, what if we make the bad guy just casually walk everywhere? Because he's that confidently badass that he can just kind of, stroll around the sidewalks, be like, hey, I'm going to fucking kill you at some point. So just keep on running.
The the catch, of course, is once we see Robert Patrick run at full speed, it's like, oh, we know at any time he can just turn that on,
That's
and
what
they're
makes it so
smoked.
good.
They're smoked.
Do you think Robert Patrick was watching literally every Tom Cruise movie in preparation for the role? He's just sitting there in a room, and there's 50 screens.
I think it was the other way around. I think Tom
Chris,
learned from Robert.
Tom's like, oh, I used to do this, but you actually want to do this. That gives you the aerodynamic run.
There's a famous anecdote from T2 in the scene where they're at the Pasadena Mall or whatever, and John, scoots out the back of the arcade and he jumps on his dirt bike and tries to leave the parking garage.
Yeah,
T1000 blows out of these emergency doors and then starts just booking it after him. The anecdote is that the first 3 or 4 takes they kept filming this, Robert kept catching Edward Furlong on the dirt bike. Eddie Furlong is on the bike going 20 miles an hour, and Robert just keeps catching him.
That's awesome.
So like Jim Cameron has to be like, hey, Robert, can you just like pull it back a little bit? Because
bring it back a little bit.
We can't. He actually can't go any faster on the bike. There's speed bumps. Like you have to go a little bit. So he actually had to bring his speed down. He was running so fast.
What's the name of the dog in the film? Fluffy or something ridiculous?
Yeah, I forget.
Remember?
Yeah, I know the scene. I know the scene.
Love the scene when he hangs up. Your foster parents are dead.
and then there's just that great pan shot to Xander Berkeley being impaled through the mouth. Xander Berkeley is one of the all-time best like movie heels.
Yeah,
he plays an asshole in so many movies, and he's so good.
Douchebag dad. He's always a loser dad.
And he's one of my favorite movies, which is on my top 50, but not my top 10, is Air Force One. And spoiler alert, he plays a pretty bad guy in that too.
Get off my plane. There's a scene in that movie. I saw that when I was in high school. And even at that point, I thought, that's a little bit much. And that's when Harrison Ford's character, I don't remember his name. It doesn't matter. It's Ford.
President James Marshall, and I'll thank you very much.
It's always a James. Yeah, he's running down this little tiny hallway. There's really nowhere else for the bad guys to shoot. And yet they're like, they can't hit him. There is nowhere else to shoot. It's just completely implausible. And,
well, he has plot armor on. He's the president.
Yeah, I know. And then, of course, maybe one of the worst early CG examples ever is when that Air Force One plane hits the water. It's just
there's really there's no shadows on the lighting.
There's nothing.
The physics are all bonkers, and there's no motion blur. It just looks so fake.
It's gold. It's gold. But this movie looks absolutely beautiful.
There's not a shot in T2 that looks bad.
Not
today. I mean, like when you look at like in terms of a visual effects standpoint, like the sequence at the end where they blow open T1000 and he peels open like a that still looks so good. And it's like, how did they do that? That I think it was half puppetry and model work and then a little bit of like CGI composite for his face, but it looks so good.
I always get like little crumbs of info on these older movies. I feel like Arnold was the one that came up with the box of roses. Am I getting that right? Do you remember that?
I don't remember, but that is a great I wish I could have experienced that sequence unspoiled. Were you able to bring Connor into T2 without him knowing that Arnold's the hero?
Yes.
Really? How did he react to it?
He was like, "Oh my God, he's here! He's here!" Like he was freaking out. She's like, "There's 2 dudes." She has the because it's when he's in the hallway, right? John's in the hallway, and the T1000's walking at him, and then out of nowhere you see the boot hit the ground, and then Arnold's got the box of roses, and he pulls out the gun. And my son Connor, who I did actually name after John Connor, he's like,
"Did you really?
Seriously? I really did.
That's fantastic.
And I wanted his middle name to be Drake after Drake from Uncharted, but Lindsay's like, I can't give you 2. His name, so out of spite, she said he can be named Blake. Okay. Out of spite, John. That's absolutely out of spite because Drake is a better name than Blake. No offense to the Blakes out there, but Drake is cooler. I'm sorry.
Drake is cool.
Yeah, but I think initially Arnold was supposed to be carrying balloons. And he said, "What about the box of flowers?" And they're like, "Okay,
need some flowers in here. Come on, let's go.
Get the flowers here now." So yeah, they had the roses. That might have been completely made up.
I'm glad to hear that your son appreciated it because I'm definitely one of the big joys of parenthood is slowly introducing your children to your favorite movies. And my kids are much younger. There's 5 and 3, so we're only just now getting to like the Pixars and Disney's. But eventually, another 5 or 6 years when my oldest is old enough,
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to sitting her down and watching T1 and T2, and hopefully getting her to that point in life without her knowing Arnold's the hero. Because
Yeah.
I knew he was so that there's no tension in that scene. I'm like, oh, I know he's gonna.
Well, the trailers ruined it too. I mean, I hated that. No, my kids both didn't know. Connor loves Terminator. He loves The Thing is one of his favorite movies as well. But Connor's 11, so he's in the bracket where he just likes watching anything that's rated R. It makes him feel edgy and cool. You know,
yes.
And I love that. I love that about
that
him.
is exactly the age where I discovered most of the movies on this list. Actually, that's the first time I watched Die Hard was when I was 11. I watched T2 when I was maybe 8 or 9. I watched Air Force One when I was 12. Yes. That was like and I watched Titanic when I was 11. It was like those formative years where I'm like a little bit too young to really be watching. I shouldn't be watching, tits and explosions at 11, but it's fine. It's Titanic.
I was watching like every Jean-Claude Van Damme with my dad at that point, and every single time it's like kills a dude, bangs a chick, kills a guy, beds a woman. Yeah. Hilarious. Terminator 2, though, we've said enough. Brilliant film, top to bottom.
My number 6 is one you may have heard of. It stars the Batman.
Oh, yeah.
The Dark Knight, 2008's Chris Nolan. Is this Chris Nolan's best movie?
Oh, hang on, John. One thing. We did have a super chat come in. I don't want to miss it.
What?
Jan Rose. Jan's always on here. I love it. I love the motivation to catch these streams. She says, what'd she say? Spy. Jason Statham made this movie absolutely hilarious.
True.
One of my faves. It's such a good spy comedy, even with Melissa McCarthy in it. I feel like she threw a little shade there with Melissa McCarthy.
I would like to defend Melissa McCarthy.
I will defend her too.
Melissa McCarthy. I think the even or the asterisk is Melissa McCarthy is in a good movie whenever her husband isn't directing it.
Interesting.
Because all the movies they've done together, whatever the last one was, like Thunder Force. It was terrible. Oh, it was terrible.
I reviewed that.
Whatever one she did, but the ones she does without her husband, Bridesmaids and Spy and some other, those are great. And there's a scene where Jason Statham is talking to Melissa McCarthy about his exploits as a spy. And he mentions at one point, he's like, I need to remind you that I once appeared in front of Congress as Barack Obama in blackface convincingly. And it is just the absolute, like the way he delivers the line with this just panache of arrogance is one of the funniest scenes of that movie. I think I've only seen it once, but I've never forgotten that scene because it's so good.
Speaking of Statham, how hot trash do you think Expendables 4 is going to be? Are you excited for it?
I will be honest, probably very hot trash, but also do not care. I love those guys. I'm going to see it. I'll pay money.
I'll see it too.
I love Sylvester Stallone. If you actually go to my letterbox and sort by like most watched actors, Sylvester Stallone's at the top because I'm not Sylvester.
He has like 3 or 4.
Sam Jackson. Sam Jackson's at the top.
Yeah, of course.
Because he's been in everything, especially Marvel alone. But then Sylvester Stallone is like 2 or 3. I've seen like 48 Sylvester Stallone movies. Like the dude has a huge pantheon of work.
He does.
And I've appreciated most of it's not great. Outside of like Rocky and
Or My Mom Will Shoot.
Now you've heard the story on that one, right? Where he did that to spite Arnold Schwarzenegger because he thought he was interested in it.
I feel like I have, but it's always nice to hear the rivalries between them.
With I think it was like Estelle Getty or whoever's in it, right? The script was being shopped around. Stop or My Mom Will Shoot. This is like the summer of 1991, and Arnold Schwarzenegger floated a rumor that like I'm going to take this movie. This looks very fantastic, and Sylvester hears the rumor. He's like, "Oh, Schwarzenegger wants this role. Well, then I need to take it first. Get my agent on the phone. I'm doing this movie now." And Sylvester did the movie. It's fucking terrible. One of his worst. It's trash. And Arnold later is like, "I did that on purpose. He totally took this stinker."
You idiot! I love how saucy Schwarzenegger used to be. Just
he would play mind games with people.
Yes.
If you've ever watched, I haven't watched the new documentary on Netflix, but his older ones,
Pumping Iron or whatever.
Pumping Iron. He talks about the psychological part where before a mat, he'd be like, "Excuse me, are you going to lift like that the whole day?" And it's just you just get into it. It's like, wait, what's wrong with how I'm lifting? Nothing. You're fine. You're probably fine. I didn't mean to say anything.
I don't. Like, but John, I don't know in that instance if that was actually that might have been scripted, because I've also heard that they actually made Arnold. It was his idea to kind of become the villain in that movie.
Oh, is that right? Either way, I kind of love that too.
Either way, it's hilarious. Yeah, he basically came up with the idea of he was gonna make this more of a dramatic, biography or whatever the hell it even was. At the end of the day, it was almost a parody of itself.
He's
okay, so the Dark Knight. Oh, and I'm pushing back on Melissa McCarthy because I love her as Suki in Gilmore Girls. I celebrate Gilmore Girls' entire catalog, except for the Netflix season.
Hank Hill points out in the comments that he says that to Lou Ferrigno, and I think that makes it even funnier. The person he's trying to psych out before the meet is Lou Ferrigno, pre-Hulk Ferrigno, and Lou, for all of his efforts, when he does the interviews, it's so obvious that it's got under his skin. Like, he's trying so hard to like save face, but like it's desperately obvious that Lou Ferrigno was embarrassed. And he's like, it didn't bother me. It didn't bother me. I'm like, dude, it fucking bothered you. Like, Arnold got you. He won. Yeah. He tricked you. He psyched you out. It's great. It is great.
You want to talk about this movie? Yeah, Dark Knight.
Dark Knight. It's great. Everyone knows it.
Indie film, The Dark Knight. I do like this movie. Christopher Nolan, he's another one, kind of like James Cameron. He doesn't really miss, does he?
No, I think this is for my money. I haven't seen Oppenheimer yet, and if I give it like a 5 out of 10, it would drastically change this argument. But of the 11 Chris Nolan films I've seen, my least favorite, I think, is Insomnia, which I gave an 8 out of 10.
I think that's the only
that's his worst movie. Is fantastic. Like, I
haven't seen it. Is that with freaking Robin Williams or
Robin Williams and Al Pacino?
Okay. Al Pacino.
Yeah, I mean, the rest of, like, Prestige, 10 out of 10. Memento, 10 out of 10. Tenet, that was maybe not great. Dark Knight Rises, also
7 out of 10.
Like 8 out of 10. Batman Begins, Dunkirk, Inception, Interstellar. Like, these were all hits.
Oh man, you have Dark Knight on here. I think I would put. Well, why am I in the wrong? Oh, I have it upright, but my tab's wrong. Okay, Inception, Interstellar, Oppenheimer, all better than The Dark Knight, in my opinion.
Really?
Yeah,
that's a bold. I have Interstellar in my top 25.
Oh, Prestige as well. I think Prestige is better than The Dark Knight, but I'm not as.
I think Prestige is in my top 50 too. I have like 3 or 4 Chris Nolan movies in here. The Dark Knight for me is my favorite of the group. I think it's just what it did for comic book movies, and I will never forget the way I felt the first time I saw that in theaters. Just like a perpetual crescendo of suspension and satisfaction and payoff. And I was kind of like, when is this going to end? This movie's so good. I can't believe it's still. And it just kept stacking climax on top climax. And yeah, it was such a, and obviously Heath Ledger is just like
Heath is great. Aaron Eckhart, I always thought was kind of funny that he was in this movie because he's just an interesting actor choice. It seems like for every serious, decent role he gets, he'll do like a straight to DVD film. So I can't tell. Is this guy a good actor? Well, he also did that. I don't know what it was. That horror flick that came out with the evil demons that went to that one gas station. The whole movie basically took place at a gas station. I can't. Legion, is that an Eckhart vehicle?
Oh, I don't remember.
I think that's what it was called. Horrible film. Regardless, Eckhart.
He did I, Frankenstein. You ever see that? Terrible.
Oh yeah, he did some really awful movies. He as Two-Face was good, but I thought that character was wasted at the end of this film. I get.
Yeah, I still wish they had pushed that to another movie, but
yeah, I do too.
The final act feels, as long as it is, it also feels a little bit rushed. And none of that bothers me though. This is a movie I've watched. I will say, of all the movies in my top 10, I think I've watched each of them at least 4 or 5 times. And I think that's important. I don't think you can have a movie in your top 10 that you've only seen once. I feel like
we should have come up with some ground rules or some sort of basis that we go by. And I think you and I are in alignment with a lot of this.
Yeah.
And other people I've talked to, other kind of critics on YouTube, all seem to be in the same boat where, and for newer generations, people that are younger than 30 might not actually have this same style. But for me, watchability is a massive part of a 5-star film, a movie that I can watch over and over, quote a lot. Those are movies that I look to for, some of my favorites.
Yeah, right. I will say I think it's 148 movies that I've given 5 stars to on Letterboxd. Of the 148, I've probably only seen probably like 50 or 60 more than once. There's actually like 2/3 of the list I've actually only seen the one time.
Amazing.
But those are not the ones I would call my favorites. They're just ones that on a first and only viewing, I was floored by it. And one of these days I'll probably go back and try to revisit them all. But I would say most of the ones in my top 50 I've seen at least twice, or were so impressed with my only viewing that I was like, this has to be in here.
That's where I'm at with Oppenheimer, a movie that was an incredible experience, but not something I ever imagined I'm going to watch more than maybe one other time if I want to show my wife or kids when they get older. But otherwise,
right.
Just a really good one-time, fantastic watch. All right, The Dark Knight. Yeah, it kind of elevated superhero movies, made them more serious, more grounded, but it still had the scale that Nolan's known for. And really, the focus was on the villains in all of these movies. I think Begins was a little weaker in that aspect, but absolutely The Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises. The villains were kind of the stars of the show, and Batman was just trying to play catch up for the most part. Tony,
I agree with that.
Yeah, Tony from Hack the Movies. This guy it's almost embarrassing, and I know he's in on his own joke, but he wanted to say that The Dark Knight Rises is better than The Dark Knight because Tony, as everyone who knows him knows, he was in The Dark Knight Rises.
Where was he? Were you an extra, Tony?
He was an extra. He would say he's the star from afar. An Aladdin.
Tony, I think that is something to be very proud of, and I would remind everyone at any opportunity that I was in one of the best superhero
Don't turn
trilogies.
On me, John. Don't turn on me now, John.
No, I would bring it up all the time. Be like, so what do you think the weather's going to hold out this weekend? And by the way, that was in Dark Knight Rises with Marion Cotillard? I would just bring that up all the time.
Did you just say bats? Were you talking about bats over here? No, we said cats.
Yeah.
Well, I heard bats, so I wanted to tell you I was in The Dark Knight Rises. But
did you? Who was that guy that won all those Super Bowls for the Tom Brady, right? There's another guy called Tom Hardy. He did a movie with me called The Dark Knight Rises.
with me. He joined me for the film. Yeah. That was the scene he was in. He was the extra in the football arena, with the 4, 5, or 16,000 other extras.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I was in a I'm an extra in a movie in that same sense that I'm in the crowd of the movie Be Cool, which was the sequel to Get Shorty.
Yeah,
there's I've actually never seen the movie, but there's a sequence where they go to an Aerosmith concert, which was a concert I attended, and they were like, so guys, just we want you to look alive. We're going to film this next song for a movie, so we just want you to keep having fun. And we're like, okay. And then they finished the song, which I think was crazy. And they're like, all right, that was great. Now we're going to play the song again. So pretend like you didn't just hear Steven Tyler sing that same song 3 minutes ago. We're going to get different camera angles. Keep cheering, everyone. And it's like, okay, I guess. So we got to see the same song 3 times in a row.
It would have been really interesting. They're like, okay, just keep doing what you're doing. We're going to do some filming. And then all these escorts come in and a bunch of blow on a table. Just keep doing what you're doing, guys. Okay. That would have been uncomfortable and awesome. Super chat from Bruce Gooding. LMT. I don't know what that means. What does LMT mean?
Limited media? No, that's LMG.
Okay. Whatever. LMT is at the end. Maybe it's some sort of a reverse trademark thing going on. What about Inglourious Bastards? Great film. That's Quentin Tarantino. Brad Pitt vehicle. Mike Myers kind of randomly in it. I like any movie where you see a glorified, over the top killing of Nazis. It's a fun flick.
Bastards is a fantastic film. One of Tarantino's best, in my opinion.
I would say it's probably top 5 for me. I think Pulp Fiction and Kill Bill are above it, and there's probably 1 or 2 others. Did you say you didn't like Kill Bill that much? Were we in a disagreement on that?
No.
Okay. I thought I saw somewhere you were like, Kill Bill's not that
good. I think of the movies that you rated at 10, I was like, this is one of the ones one of the lowest rated I have, but I have it at an 8. Okay. So it's not like I just don't love it, but no, it's very good.
All right.
Yeah, I think for my money, Django or Bastards is probably his best.
Oh, Django's really good too. I like Django. Bubba with a $1.99 super chat says 2001's Out Cold is the most rewatchable film in my opinion. I've still never seen it.
I haven't. I don't
crap all the time.
I don't think it's very good.
Okay, yeah, I kind of was worried that was the thing, and now he's just been hyping it up to the point where
It's kind of like a dumb stoner direct to
yeah,
video experience, and sometimes that's good to throw on in the background.
sure, like a road trip or a Euro trip.
Yes, it's
Okay.
very akin to that sort of cohort of like early 2000s. Scotty doesn't know, whatever that was from.
Scotty
That
doesn't know. I just think of Austin Powers 3. Scotty doesn't know.
what's the one with? Yeah, Road Trip has Tom Green in it, right?
Yeah, Tom Green and
And then there's
Arlen
Road Trip,
Scott.
and then also Euro Trip, and then there's
I never saw Euro Trip. That didn't look very good.
a lot of movies that kind of came out at the same time. And my head
They all had the American Pie-esque flavor, boys being boys. Yeah, doing that sort of thing. All right, Dark Knight's great. We both agree. This movie, is this really, where did I put it? The third slot. Interesting. This movie used to be kind of a back and forth in the number one. I guess I've just kind of grown up a little bit. Let's get to it.
We're skipping over your, what are we at now?
Did we?
So you had Terminator at number 6.
Oh, right. Okay. Did I missed one?
I had Terminator at number 5.
Hang on. Let me go back and really.
I think we skipped one.
Let me get my bearings. So I was Terminator at 6. Yes, I'm looking at it right now. Okay, yes. There we go. Thank you, John. Thank you for keeping me.
So I had 6. You're next at 5, which is Die Hard.
All right, my number 5 is Die Hard. We talked about it at length. Brilliant movie. We don't have to say anything else. But Die Hard is much like John. This is a Christmas staple at my house, regardless of whether or not you think it's a Christmas movie.
It is in our houses. And at my number 5 is T2, which we just talked about. Okay. So your number 4, getting us caught up, is Fight Club.
Is Fight Club? Yes, thank you. Let me hang on. I don't want to hide the other ones, so let me sneakily go back here and then do this again. Okay, we have Fight Club. But before I say that, Master Sergeant, shot out of a cannon with a $10 super chat, beautiful super chat, says, winning, you guys should make a series of this. A top 10 overall is tough. A series of shows about competing top 10 sci-fi films, action, comedy, Western would be fun. I fully agree. Fully agree. John, I'd love to have you back. We could easily.
Absolutely. I've already put together lists on here of my top 10 favorite foreign movies, my favorite silent movies, my favorite animated. And I think I'll probably branch out and do one for each, action, drama, whatever.
I got a good list for you, John. Top 10 movies of the person in the movie saying the title of the movie.
Top 10 title drops?
Top 10 title drops would be a better title than what I just gave you. Top 10 movies of the person saying the movie title of the movie. Yeah. Top 10 title drops would be great.
I have been thinking, and I may never do it. I may do it and may do it very well. I've been thinking about doing a supercut of title drops.
Oh, that'd be great.
It would be too long, so I think it would have to be broken up into 26 different parts for each letter of the alphabet. So top title drops and just literally go through every movie I've ever seen that starts with the letter A and do all of the title drops from Armageddon to whatever.
I have a couple trope things that I've wanted to do, but I never will. So maybe something you could do down the road. But the trope of getting sideswiped by a car.
I'm working on that. I'm literally working on that. I have been taking notes for 5 years.
there's no okay. So there's 2 different variants of this. You have You have the rear view window shot of the car coming at the car and getting hit towards the camera. And then you have the other trope, which is a person for some reason standing in the middle of open road.
I'm doing that
giant bus or a car, or in the case of Meet Joe Black, he gets
I was going to say it's the Meet Joe Black one.
He gets gangbanged by 2 different cars. Yeah, Mean Girls has it. It's in so many, but
my list is already like 80 to 90 movies long.
I couldn't imagine. But you'd be surprised how many movies use that side profile shot of another car going whoop into the side. It's in
where you're filming. You're looking at the driver like this, and you're looking at their
side profile of the driver, and you can see.
Whiplash does it right towards the end.
Oh yeah, Whiplash does. It's in a ton of. You'd be surprised how many movies do it. So one I did do, and this is only up until John Wick 3, was a supercut of how many times he flips guys over his shoulder. I think there was 66 in just the first 3 movies.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. I mean, in the third one alone, when he's fighting the 2 brothers, with the katanas in that room of glass, he just is constantly flipping guys over his shoulders. Oh my God, it's ridiculous. But anyway, focusing.
Totally off topic, but
Yeah,
I appreciate
Mike Hunt, $2 super chat. Please tell me The Edge 1997 is one of your favorites. It's not a top 10 movie, Mike, but I do like The Edge. It's another survival film set in the wilderness. Two guys against a bear, Anthony Hopkins and Alec Baldwin. Yes.
Yeah.
I do really enjoy that movie, and I like that it's
good.
It's a tight. I feel like it's like an hour and 40, maybe an hour and a half movie.
I gotta go rewatch that one.
Yeah. It starts right up. I think it's one of 3 movies that came out in the span of 5 or 6 years where birds get stuck in the engine of a plane as it's flying. Like, how's everybody doing back? Oh shit! And then they go
very,
down.
very specific trope, but it is a good catalyst for a first act.
Another super trope cut for you. Birds flying into engines. All right, one more super chat here from Bruce Gooding. LMT, is he going to explain the LMT? He did not. Brandon Lee, The Crow. So rewatchable and quotable. Victims, aren't we all? I like The Crow. I can't say I have like a crow.
It wasn't worth his life. I'll put it that way.
Oof. Weren't they supposed to redo that movie 7 or 8 times now? And
I don't know.
Yeah,
I feel like that's like a black script that should just remain unremade. I think
my favorite memory of The Crow is in The Office. I think it's season 2, when they're talking about movies to bring on a deserted island.
I've never seen The Office.
The TV show?
Never.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very familiar with it, but I've
just
never...
watch season 1 through 4 and walk away, because those seasons are absolute gold.
I'm certain from all the clips I've seen over the year, and I know Jim, Pam, Mike. I know enough about the show to be, competent and casual.
Well, anyway,
Yeah.
Dwight, who's like the nerd of The Office, they're talking about movies that they bring on a deserted island, and for some reason Dwight gets pissed off and pouts and walks away. And as he's leaving with his back to him, Jim goes, "Hey Dwight, what's your favorite movie to bring on a desert island?" And without looking at him, he's just like, "The Crow," and then he just keeps walking. It's hilarious, brilliantly timed. Okay, back to this. Fight Club is, God, so many of these movies we should also point out. I think that a lot of people, when you ask them their top 10 movie list, are going to be from movies when they were in their teens and 20s. I think that that's the most impressionable years of your life. You're coming into your own. You're looking for ways to channel some of your anxieties, some of your, emotions that you're having. And so for guys like us, we look at movies. I remember watching things like Donnie Darko for the first time and being like, what is this trippy, crazy thing? Mulholland Drive. And then Fight Club was the one that completely elevated everything for me.
So you watched this when it came out, when you were like 13 or 14?
I saw it in theaters. My buddy Derek, actually, I remember the trailers looking kind of lame for it, or just, they didn't really show much. I wasn't impressed. And my buddy came home and he said, we need to go to Fight Club. He'd already seen it. He loved it. And so he went back for a second outing. And I think I saw it a couple more times in theaters. It's a movie that's so like heavily layered with metaphor and social commentary, and just the cinematography by Fincher is completely insane. You got cameras going off the sides of buildings. They're going through keyholes. It's kind of the thing he became known for.
He's always had a really inventive perspective. I know there's a great shot in Panic Room.
Oh, Panic Room has several shots. Where
it goes through like the lip of a coffee mug's handle,
and then up the flight of stairs through some railings that they CG'd 2 of the railings in.
Yeah,
very, very brilliant guy behind the lens of a camera.
I'm glad that you love this, and I appreciate that you contextualized your appreciation, because I didn't find this movie until I was 29. And by then I was sort of less than impressed with the faux intellectualism and this like anti-capitalist message. To me, it seemed a little bit like like what's the good way to phrase this? Like when you go to college and you for like a year or two become really entranced with like libertarianism. Sure. And you're like, yeah, I'm good. You like when you're in that formative between like 18 and 20, and you think that you can just like say F you to the world and like take over things, and I don't need to listen to the government or authority. If I had watched it then, I would have loved it and connected with it. But as like a full-grown, fully formed adult that had a mortgage, I was like, this is okay. I love the movie. I love the characters and the story, but like the anti-corporate capitalist message was kind of, it felt too simplistic for me to
Too on the nose.
Yeah, it felt too simplistic and too baby's first anti capitalist. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
That's fair to say. I guess I never even cared about the anti-establishment stuff. That was all just nothing.
Yeah. And again, another movie that I scored an 8 out of 10. I really like it. I wouldn't mind revisiting it, but it didn't connect with me, I think, the way it probably did for you.
Yeah, I liked, again, kind of with Die Hard, all the little things in the movie. The fact that I love the visual tricks more than anything else, but I like that Tyler Durden, I don't even want to spoil it because I know not everybody's seen this movie. They should absolutely see it, but there's some weird stuff going on, and the movie does kind of a 180 in the second act. But what's cool about it is there's all these things leading to it early on that people aren't anticipating or looking for. So it has such great replayability because Fincher puts single frames of images throughout the picture. I think there's 5 different ones of Tyler Durden randomly spliced in. And then on top of that, he even has a character mention this later in the film when they put a giant cock on a Disney movie for a single frame on the theater. Yeah, right. And the guy looks at it, he's like, yeah, we do it for one frame. The audience knows they saw something, but they're not sure what it was, but it stays with them. And I just think that kind of commentary, the smaller little stuff that he's doing is pretty damn clever. And it really makes the movie fun to repeat watch. Also, Edward Norton's character, we never learn his name, but it's established later that there's all these crazy diaries in this Paper Street warehouse back room, and they're all written in the first person, or I'm sorry, the third person. I am Jack's whatever, masturbatory thoughts. So it's like, okay, is he Jack? Is that this guy? Or is he this dude? It's just clever. A lot of layers to it.
I'm glad you framed it that way, because I think I've only seen this the one time when I was 28, 29 years old or whatever, which is like 9 years ago now. So I am definitely curious to go back and revisit this and see.
Yeah, you should.
And knowing the twist, sort of knowing the conceit of the structure, if rewatching it would frame a lot of the stuff better. And certainly if I can kind of detach myself from its messaging. And what's funny is the anti-capitalist stuff I am inclined to agree with, but it's just the way it's presented is sort of like, look at this fresh new perspective on how society is trying to run. I'm like, I mean, I guess.
Yeah,
it's not like a new thought.
Again, I didn't care about any of that. I just found the character stuff so fascinating. The fact that this guy is having a complete mental breakdown, a collapse, he's really looking inward and saying, what am I doing with my life? You know, his whole house is decorated in IKEA furniture, which is really brilliant how he set this shot up, where he's walking through the room and stuff's popping into place.
Like, yeah, I remember that being a really cool sequence.
And
sure.
John, as a person that really loves little Easter eggs in movies, I know you've said your appreciation before about this. There's a Starbucks cup in basically every scene in this film. So wherever they're at, there's a Starbucks cup hidden somewhere in it.
I will keep an eye out for that. Yeah, I have a list on Letterboxd called Rewatch List. And anytime I have an errant thought like, oh, I haven't seen that in a while, I put it on the list. And then like twice a week, I'll be like, I want to rewatch something I haven't seen in a while. I'll go to that list, pull up something off. So I added it to there. Hopefully I'll get a chance to see it before the end of the year.
Crips says with the $2 super chat, just love you. Just love y'all. Also, the chat is hilarious. LOL. Oh, that's good.
It's going off the rails a little bit, but we don't have to call attention to it.
I really don't, unless it's a super chat. I really don't pay much attention. I do have
that's good. Incentivized monetization, Adam.
Yeah, Bubba does the moderating here. He does a fantastic job, so he can always he's got.
I think it probably is worth mentioning. I'm seeing it via StreamYard, which I don't think includes the moderation. So I just see the unfiltered.
Oh, nice.
I do want to mention before we go to my number 4.
Okay.
I know you have the Mithril membership.
Yes.
For how to request your review. I think if you haven't considered it yet, you should do a live stream where you will talk about any movie for 60 seconds based on the super chats that come in. Oh,
that'd be great. I think
just,
I might
just like a puppet, like our little puppet. We're the marionette, the marionette. I don't know what the phrase is. And we just pull your strings for 2 hours.
Yeah,
once a
sure.
week.
Yeah.
And just like, all right, dance, boy, review for us. And
If
just
I
throw
could,
out a movie like Bridesmaids. Like, what do you think about this? And just throw them movies.
that's not
You
a bad.
know?
I mean, we can certainly do that right now, John. I have nothing else better going on.
Yeah.
People can
Right?
always throw in super chats, and with you here, it's like double the knowledge. You know,
Yeah.
I think you've seen more movies than I have, even. So really,
I've
it's
seen more movies than most people.
yeah. Although I know I haven't logged a lot of mine in on Letterboxd. I'm really bad about doing that.
Yeah, you got to go in there and just mark watch. Click the little eyeball icon. Like I did the first week I signed up. I added all my back data, all my IMDb ratings and stuff. I imported those. My text document and spreadsheets, imported those, and then I just went on and went eyeball, 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 all the ones I had seen, and yeah, it was a fun little week doing all that.
I completely forgot something earlier before we get back to this really quick. I brought you up a week ago to my daughter because she was talking about, she was like bored one afternoon. I was like, how dare you? How dare you say you're bored? There's so much to do. And I brought up how, like, I have a
I knew this one loser who used to do this.
I have this pathetic loser. No, I'm like, I know this guy, John. He's big into collecting and cataloging a lot of things that he's done in his life. And one of the things I believe, maybe I'm wrong, but I told her this, so it's fact to her, is that you collect a lot of the movie stubs that you get from the theater.
Yeah. I don't do it anymore because movie stubs are on like that receipt paper, right?
Yeah, or you
so
or you get the digital one on your phone, which is lame.
Yeah, it's all shit now.
But John, this is gonna make you sad.
What's that? Look,
see
all these?
Oh my god. My daughter Olivia goes, "What's a ticket stub?"
Yeah, she doesn't even know.
Yeah, she doesn't fucking know. She doesn't know. And I had to tell her how movie theaters used to work because to my kids, even though they have experienced the kind of older ways before, they forgot they were too young. To them, going to the movies is you walk to the concession stand, you buy your drink, and you buy your ticket there. Or now,
yeah, right.
I buy them on my phone, so we just bypass everything and go right into the theater. So I had to kind of like tell her, back in my day, you'd go to a ticket booth and you would buy a ticket. Yeah, you would get a ticket stub, and then you would go to the concession, and then there'd be a guy whose sole job is to greet you, take your ticket, and tell you what movie to go into. And my daughter's like, that's like a lot of people for jobs. I'm like, yeah, but it was kind of
it was
personal.
It propped up half the U.S. economy.
I know it connected you more to the experience when you have
Absolutely.
a guy that's like, hello, sir, let me take your ticket. You're going down there. Enjoy the movie. I don't know. It's all become so disconnected. It sucks. It sucks. Back to the list. Everything's sad and depressing. Let's talk movies again. All right, John.
My number 4.
John boy. There's probably people in the chat that will agree with you on this, but I cannot believe this is in your top, not your top 10, your top 4, top 5.
Yeah.
Is this number 4?
I got the post. Put me back on full screen real quick. Yeah, you got the poster here.
I might
and you can't really see, but I also have Cap's shield over here in the top left of my screen. The Avengers Endgame is for me kind of a placeholder for the entire MCU, or at least the first 4 phases. The first 3 phases, right? The good phases before they kind of went whatever. So yeah, Endgame for me was a culmination. It was a payoff to 12 years of setup, and it gave me all of the payoffs and all of the scenes that I wanted to see. Cap and Iron Man reconciling after like a 5-year fallout, grabbing Mjolnir, the entire resolution to everything that was so brilliantly set up in Infinity War. I kind of look at those as one big story. I have more enjoyment watching the ending than the setup of that 5-hour story. But yeah,
I'm gonna push back on you as far as, because you said that it gave you everything you wanted as far as these kind of narratives.
Except for Hulk's progression.
And you were cool with Thor, because I thought Hulk and Thor were treated either too cartoonish and comical on the Thor side, or they just didn't even conclude it as far as Hulk goes at all. And I thought that was miserable.
It didn't. I agree. It doesn't bother me too much though.
All right.
And the Thor stuff I'm okay with. I think his characterization and his arc and getting back with his mother and kind of like getting his mojo back, so to speak, that all worked for me. And the final scene, Alan Silvestri's score, the portal scene, it gives me goosebumps every time. Love this movie.
I think Infinity War is probably peak MCU. I like that one more. Were these done at the same time, or
They were shot back to back.
Were they shot back to back? Okay, it's weird because they feel pretty different, I think, from each other.
They do feel very different.
I don't know. It's the tone of the first one is so dire. It's so somber, and everything feels just intense as all hell. I don't think I breathe when I saw that movie in theaters. I don't think I know I wasn't breathing through definite parts of that movie. And I remember looking down at my chair and my hands were actually squeezing the front in the first 30 minutes of that movie. I was so tensed up watching. It's the first time I felt like these characters could actually die and there would be some meaning behind it after building 15, 20 movies in.
Right.
And with Endgame, it felt sillier again. It felt lighter again. There was definite fan service all over the place, which was fine. People often say, "Oh, the movie's fan service."
I'm a fan. I want to be service.
I'm a movie fan. I want service. Yeah, otherwise, you get The Last Jedi, and then people are pissed because they did the opposite of fan service.
Right.
So, and which one do you want? Do you want subverting expectations, or do you want it on the nose? Or maybe we find something in the middle where that's where I like to be, a little bit more in the middle. Give me some fan service, but don't go too hard with it. And Endgame, I think, while I do like the movie and it was definitely a great ending, I do find it a lot sloppier than Infinity War. And I just have a hard time saying top 10 movie of all time. However, theater experience wise, absolutely top 10 theater experience of all time.
Yeah, I think that's a huge, big part of it. Is I've actually, I think, only watched this movie twice. I've watched individual clips a bunch of times, but I've only watched it all the way through 2 times, and both times were in the theater. And it was I think it's probably the only time I've cried at an IMAX theater. I'll take that.
When Captain Marvel came and flew through the ships.
Oh, strong female.
There she is. The first Avenger. Tony Stark, absolutely. It paid off the things that mattered, right?
Yeah, right.
It got those.
No, I love it. I'm not. It's not an opinion I'm ashamed of either.
No, you don't.
No. You have. I feel like every time we say let's speed up, we take 20 more minutes per item. But
I know.
Let's get to your number 3.
We have 3 more, and to be fair, we have already talked about one of them, and I think this one we both share at least a common ancestor. We have in the number 3 spot, The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring. For me, this can be swapped with Return of the King, although I don't have Return of the King on here. I felt like taking up 3 different spots with Lord of the Rings. Yeah,
put that up full screen so you can see this. We were talking about ticket stubs. Look how old this is.
Oh, nice.
This is from 2002. This ticket stub is 20 years old, and it's
Liberty Tree Mall
in Massachusetts, in Danvers. Look at that. That's quality stuff right there. I still have it. It's one of the oldest ones I have. I still have my ticket stub to the Phantom Menace, which is from like 99. But
that's beautiful.
Yeah, I saw all 3 of these opening day or opening weekend anyway. Return of the King is in my.
For me. I did the midnights of all 3.
I went. I think Christmas Eve morning, all 3 years. Or actually, no, I just had it up. Right, this was December 30th, or then the week later. Then, so not opening week.
One of them.
I'm a filthy liar, and I just proved myself wrong.
You have the proof. One of them I saw, and I know I had school the next day. I had college the next day, so I remember the movie got done at 3 a.m. or 3:30 in the morning because these were the 12:01 showings back when.
Yeah, right. But when you didn't have Thursday previews, were not a thing yet. You still actually had to see it on Friday.
You had to see it at 12:01 because that was the loophole. It's like, well, technically it's Friday, or was it Friday to Saturday? I can't remember what it was.
No, it would have been Friday morning at 12:01 a.m. So late.
Yeah, yes, thank you. So yeah, I had class that Friday. And I remember this movie got done around 3:30, and I'm like, I can't sleep because I have a cram for a test. So I ended up going to like a local Perkins that's open 24/7. And I just was pouring coffee down my throat, and I hated coffee at the time, cramming for a test. I'm not even sure if I passed, but I remember The Lord of the Rings kicking ass. And I wasn't a book guy. I knew nothing about this series. I didn't know about Middle Earth or, Gandalf or Frodo or Samwise. And I was absolutely captivated by this whole thing. The performances were brilliant. the fact that the trilogy consistently is almost without complaint for me is pretty damn impressive to not only hit the first one out of the park, but stick the landing. And again, the Lord of the Rings Fellowship is kind of just a placeholder for all three films.
I was going to say it's interesting that you chose the first one because for the same reason I picked Endgame, Return of the King is my favorite of the trilogy. And I actually have that at 11 on my top list. So it doesn't quite make this top 10 list today, but yeah, just
I go back and I honestly go back and forth between Fellowship and Return of the King. I swap which one I put in representation. It's funny because a lot of people like Two Towers the most.
They're all
great.
They're all really equally fantastic in separate ways.
Yeah.
I wish they were a little bit more accessible in terms of length.
Yeah.
And it's not the type of movie you can just put on. You have to really I got to set aside my evening, put on the subtitles and turn up the volume and set aside a day for it. So I've actually only watched the trilogy all the way through twice or three times since they came out. Because it is a once a decade for me. I'll put them all on and make a weekend out of it. But
I feel like Mike Hunt is just a disappointed father throughout this entire live stream because here he is again with the $2 super chat. I hope Gladiator is on this list or there's going to be hell to pay.
Oh, sorry.
Spoiler. Russell Crowe's not on this list in any shape or form.
Nope.
But I do like Gladiator. I can't say I'm hyped though for was it a prequel or a sequel that Ridley Scott's working on?
He's working on a sequel, Gladiator 2, the re-gladiating.
Yeah, we got a sequel for Gladiator. We have a prequel and a sequel for Heat, I believe. So they're just, it's never going to end.
Why?
Because Michael Mann has he done anything since Collateral that's worth mentioning?
I think he did a movie called Black Hat, but I didn't like it.
I didn't see it. I don't know. Yeah. I didn't see it, so it can't be good. It's impossible.
That is how most of the country thinks about many things.
I've never heard of it. That doesn't exist.
Yeah.
All right. So number 3? Is this number 3?
This is my number 3. It is the third in the trilogy and the third best movie ever made, in my opinion. Just bar none, not of the trilogy.
I agree. I love The Last Crusade. Absolutely.
I recently rewatched all of them, and obviously in preparation for Dial of Destiny, which I actually really liked. But the new one was pretty good. And rewatching them for the first time in 6 or 7 years, I used to watch these probably twice a month. And it occurred to me, I think the Crusade's better than Raiders. I think Raiders obviously established the formula, established the character, all the motifs and music. So that gets, I think, more credit for kind of building the universe.
Yeah.
But Crusade kind of takes those concepts and ramps them up. And same reason why I think I like Rocky 2 more than the original is it takes those things that worked and does it even better. And the injection of Connery and that sort of buddy comedy element they have in this is so effective and so fun and
they tried it, they did it with all of the movies, right? They always give Indy a sidekick or two. But here I think they really nailed down a good tone with the father-son dynamic. And I guess this is technically the first sequel to Indiana Jones because Temple of Doom is a prequel, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Which is a dumb thing they did because
it was very weird.
They wanted a new love interest without getting rid of Marion. So it's what if it happened before he got back together with Marion Ravenwood? And then by this movie, weird. It's who's Ravenwood? I don't know. Don't bother explaining it. It's fine.
Yeah, and I don't hate Temple of Doom, but this feels more pace-wise and feels more. This feels close. This feels like a sequel to Indiana Jones, whereas Temple feels like a weird aside. That darker.
It totally feels like. The same reason that all the Bond movies have that very formulaic cold open, gun barrel, cold open, title sequence, MI6 headquarters, debriefing, mission, whatever, location change, mission, whatever, location change.
Right.
Temple of Doom was he's already in the wild, and now he's going over here, and he just picks it up as he goes.
Right.
Whereas in Raiders and Crusade, it's sort of there's a cold open. He's at Marshall College. He figures out what he's going to do. He gets his team together and goes out. I feel like they felt more familiar, for lack of a better.
John, you
phrase.
Brought up Dial of Destiny and liking it. We might have to do a movie feuds on that one because I feel like I can't
You
stand
really didn't
by.
like it that much? I don't know if I've watched your review of that one yet. I should.
I didn't like it. No, I didn't outright like despise it by any means, but I think fundamentally going in, it was going to be a hard one to win me over because I look at Indiana Jones as a younger dude in his 30s and 40s. That's, he's experienced, but he's still able to go on missions and climb hills and beat the shit out of guys. And
Yeah.
that's the pulpy serial nature of Indiana Jones. That's the spirit of the character. So then taking him and kind of, I don't even say deconstructing him. They just didn't really do much with him at all. He's just kind of there in the scene, still doing his thing. I don't know. It was weird. And the opening 25-minute CG or
I actually like that a lot. I've heard everyone complain about how wonky it looks and
no. I'm not going that. I was gonna say I'd almost prefer they just did the whole movie like that.
Oh, okay, then I'm on board. I thought that first.
That's more the spirit of Indiana Jones. That's the younger 30 to 40-year-old Harrison Ford that I want to see in the movie. I do think it's a little off, of course. It's not 1-to-1, but it is really close a lot of the time.
Yeah, but they're all I enjoy all of them. Even Crystal Skull.
Crystal Skullfuck.
I watched that and I'm like, I'm having fun. There's a lot of sequences in here that are very enjoyable. There's stuff that's like the swinging on the vines. It's like, all right, this is a little childish, but most of it kind of works.
You'll have to. That was another one I did the Jaws the Revenge style video on. I broke down.
I think I did see that.
I enjoyed that.
I think I did see.
That was fun to do. Yeah, Indy and the Last Crusade's great. I really like the whole idea of the Fountain of Youth being these different the little tests they have to do at the end of the film, going through the swinging axes going by like they're in a Mortal Kombat stage.
Yeah, it's absolutely like that.
Yeah, it's very good. All right, let's go to. Do you have more to say on that?
We've come to the silver medal films.
Yeah, I was actually a little disheartened to not see this on your list, but maybe it's on a bigger one in the top.
Number 30, number 33.
Okay. So what are you saying? I can dodge bullets? Highly quotable, highly stylized, totally unique in the genre of sci-fi. I know it's taken inspiration from other things. I know the Wachowskis supposedly ripped it off from someone else. I don't give a shit. I love the movie. I love this movie. Keanu Reeves, his deadpan delivery is perfect as a.
He doesn't have another.
No, his whatever you want to call it works perfect as an avatar in a fake CG version of the real world. I think Hugo Weaving as Agent Smith is one of the greatest villains of all time, and that list,
Anderson.
You'll notice our list today, our top 10s each, both contain some of the best villains, full stop. Heath Ledger as Joker, Hans Gruber by Alan Rickman, Darth Vader,
T-1000,
Thanos, of course,
and Billy Zane in Titanic. Thank you very much.
And the iceberg in Titanic, the door in Titanic,
Apollo Creed. Yeah, no, there's good villains.
Oh my god, all of these movies have great villains. The T-Rex in Jurassic Park. But anyway, The Matrix was just a lot of the movies on my list and John's. Not only do they kind of hold up well, they talk to you at the time you were born, the teenage years, the high school, college years, and they revolutionized film in some way or another.
I was going to say a good number of these were sort of landmark events, and Terminator 2 was a huge jump forward in CGI accomplishments in 91. Jurassic Park did the same in 93. Titanic won the most Oscars of any movie ever released. Avengers Endgame won the most money of any movie ever released. And The Matrix basically reinvented an entire genre at the end of the millennium. Like it
made sci-fi cool again.
It really did. It was I do not want to miss the fact that although it's not in my top 10, I did give it a 10 out of 10. And it is a phenomenal film. Yeah. And I love it. I actually have not seen the fourth one, which I heard you hate. So,
John, it's so sad. This is another quick story with my kids. So my kids have both seen the Matrix trilogy now. And I have softened a lot on the trilogy over the years. Time has healed wounds. I've always dug Reloaded. And Revolution.
I like the second one's pretty good.
Yeah,
the third one
Reloaded's
loses me a bit.
Revolutions is definitely the weakest of the three. I remember leaving the theater being very salty about that movie. And over time, I have grown to accept it for what it is. It's not the route I would have gone, not in my headcanon, but I get where they were going with it, and I appreciate it for what it is. Now, the trilogy as a whole is fantastic and very rewatchable. But anyway, my kids each experienced The Matrix with me, the trilogy, on their own terms. I watched them all with my daughter over a couple of days. We had burritos. It was this magical, awesome experience. And then my son, Connor, a couple years later, we did the same thing. And then I was so excited to tell him that the new one was coming out soon. And I was going to go see it with the same buddies that I grew up watching these movies with. So the 5 of us went to the theater, and we were so fucking sad and angry about the whole experience. It's a parody of itself in the worst way possible. And I came home, and my kids were both there, like dogs at the door, waiting to hear what the owner had to say. And I just looked down, defeated, and just shook my head and walked upstairs. And that was it. And that was it.
Oh, that's too funny.
I'm glad my kids respect me enough, my opinion on movies, because they still haven't had any inkling to watch it to see for themselves. And I told them, like, listen, I don't want to sour you guys on it. It didn't work for me. You are more than welcome to check it out on your own. I'll gladly put it on for you. And both of them are like, no, we're good, Dad. We got the trilogy.
It sounds like you're doing everything right, man.
I'm trying. I'm trying. All right, John, we are going to your number 2. Its name, number 2. Share this. We have. Oh, look at that.
We already talked about Treat Williams and the rest of the great cast.
The unsung hero of Empire Strikes Back, Williams.
It also, I mentioned all the things it gave us.
Yeah.
I forgot to include the Wampa and the Tauntauns and
do you say
speeders.
AT? Do you say AT or at?
I usually say AT. But
I do too. Thank you. I do too. Thank you.
All-terrain attack transport. Thank you very much. I know my Star Wars.
And it just feels like everything else is said kind of, verbatim. Like you say C-3PO. You don't see C-3PO. You don't say R2-D2.
Yeah, it's interesting.
You say R2-D2. You say each individual letter and number.
If you've ever read any of the novelizations for the movies, and I read the novelization for Phantom Menace prior to its release because I was so impatient. I'm like, I'm going to read the book before the movie comes out so I know everything. They actually write the droids' names out in prose. So R2-D2 is ARTOOO. R2 just written out. And C-3PO is like SEETHREEPIO.
Wow.
They just write it out in
Very
prose.
Very thorough.
Yeah, it's I don't know. That's interesting, I guess. Anyway, Empire's great. One of the best movies of all time.
Moving on.
I've certainly, I mean, I have the Millennium Falcon shirt on. I've been a Star Wars nerd since I was a kid. I'm not on all I haven't seen any episodes of any of the TV shows besides Obi-Wan, and I didn't even really. I didn't even really care for that.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm so disheartened and what's the word? Yeah, I just disheartened.
Weathered,
that I've fallen off like the Star Wars. Rise of Skywalker killed like any love I had for this franchise, and it's so sad that what once used to be like my absolute number one gold standard movie. I'm like, I can't even like. There's a new Ashoka. Is it Ashoka? Is that how you say it?
Yeah. Who cares?
And I was just like, I don't. It's whatever. I don't care. It's just I don't at all. But I did care.
If anything
for the original.
If anything was ever going to tear a rift between us, John, it's that you like The Last Jedi. I can't. There's a part of me that just I can't with it. That you like that movie.
It's not just that I really love it.
You really love it.
It's like one of the best movies of this decade. Like,
can you at least back off the thing that I don't know if you've said this, maybe you haven't.
Yeah, I don't know.
A lot of people have said after it came out that when an Empire came out, people didn't like that either, and it took a long time before they appreciated it. Can you at least say, yeah, this is going to be for the people that like it now. Down the road, Last Jedi isn't going to be looked at as the Empire of the new trilogy. Are you willing to at least?
I probably had said that at some point.
Okay.
Where I felt that a lot of the early negative reception to Last Jedi felt reactionary rather than intellectually, or it felt more emotionally motivated rather than intellectually motivated. And I was of the opinion, and I don't know if I still am, that with time people would sort of understand Rian Johnson's vision and concept. But
Sure.
that argument has had its legs cut off because the Rise of Skywalker immediately, forcefully, and deliberately retconned every one of those decisions that I liked. The things and the directions it was going, it just ruined it all. So in hindsight, had we got a Rian Johnson threequel, I would say I would have been vindicated by history. But J.J. Abrams ruined any chance we had of any type of through line that had cohesion.
I would love to be a fly on the wall with some of their conversations or what they were thinking, because it's there was a lot of apologists when Rise of Skywalker came out that said, no, Disney had a plan. This was all along. Like,
no plan.
JJ was handing notes to Ryan, and Ryan.
There's a scene where like Kylo literally takes his helmet and glues it back together. And that is like the visual metaphor of J.J. Abrams being like, no, that's mine and I'm gonna use it.
It's not only that, John, but don't forget that Luke Skywalker comes back in the third movie and he grabs the lightsaber and he like scolds Rey about it like she's Rian Johnson. Like, how dare you throw this or treat it with disrespect?
Yeah, like, okay. No, it's so frustrating that they were not working in any sort of cohesion or concert. Because although a lot of the decisions in the second movie, I could see why they would upset you and others. Yeah, I was like, ooh, I really like that this is doing something different. I really love that they're making bold choices. I love that they got rid of Snoke, and it's like, what? There's going to be a power vacuum. That to me is more interesting than just a big shadowy big bad behind. I'd rather see Kylo and Rey fight for control of the galaxy in like an internal conflict, but instead it's like, oh, Palpatine's back. It's like, oh, that's the laziest way to do it, though.
See, but I would say that even that is almost the laziest way. Rey versus Kylo, I mean, that's just, again, good versus evil. For a second, Ryan had me when they teamed up in that red room, which
that's what I mean. I wanted to see that movie.
Yeah, I will say, John, that scene, it gets shit for some bull crap, hand behind the laser or whatever. That scene's fucking awesome. I love that scene of the movie, but it's about the only thing I really thought worked well was that. I mean, and Rey, by the way, Daisy Ridley is just giving it all in this moment. She's just a badass through and through. But the moment then when he completely heel turns and says, okay, join me now and we can be bad, I was thinking, what? You just completely undercut the coolness that you did by killing Snoke and having these two kind of team up and go this wild new direction. Now it's just back to, all right, I'm the new Darth Vader, you're the new Luke Skywalker.
Yeah, that I could totally, which is why what I was hoping from the third movie would be some really good conflict where they do figure out a way to team up in a way that brings other conflict. But instead it's like, oh, there's just a new enemy, and now it's just everything I wanted and hoped for was ruined.
So we both got the disappointment. It was just yours took one movie longer to get there.
Right. No, I think that's what's so frustrating is, and I mentioned this in my initial reviews of all three movies, that especially in my review of Rise of Skywalker, which I think was the last video I did on YouTube. Like it was so bad I just left the internet. That was kind of how I felt about it after that. But I mentioned in that review is that it not only cheapened itself, it worsens what came before.
Sure.
And as a result, nobody is happy. And you're unsatisfied. I'm disappointed. And it's like nobody wins.
It's like Force Awakens comes out. I'd say 90% is pretty much on board and happy with this movie.
It's a shameless retread, but like it gave us what we wanted. New characters.
Soft reboot. Yeah. Yep. Soft reboot. Set us up for, greatness. And then Last Jedi comes out, cuts the fan base basically in half, pisses half of them off. But the half that they have seem to really like it. So instead of making those people happy, he pisses off the other 50%, and now no one. I think that for every 1,000 people that dislike the new trilogy, there's maybe one person that likes it. And that's maybe even underselling the hate for the new trilogy.
Well, there's a classic quote, and it's never been more true than the new trilogy, which is nobody hates Star Wars more than Star Wars fans.
Yeah, that's fair. Although I think that's I mean, I think the phrase had more meaning when it came out, but now what's happening with movies is everything's become a massive property. So you could say that for everything. Nobody hates Fast and the Furious more than Fast and the Furious fans. They're on 10 of these now.
Actually, I will. That's a terrible example because I feel like Fast and Furious fans, like myself,
yeah, you're right. That's whatever.
We'll go to bat for the dumbest shit. Whereas the people that hate it are the ones that tapped out like 6 movies ago. I'm like, no, wait, right. I swear to God, they're actually really good now.
Yeah,
they're over the top. They're arcade games.
Yeah,
but yeah, that's true. Nobody hates Marvel more than Marvel fans.
DCEU. I mean, if you keep going with anything long enough, you're going to become the villain. The Dark Knight kind of has a quote like that. You know, live long enough.
Let's move on to our
final one. This is easy because we've already talked about it. And everybody who knows me, everybody who knows me knows that I love Jurassic Park. And it's a basic bitch pick, but that's where I'm at.
What is your favorite? This was for reference for those who have stuck around with us for the full 2 hours here. This is my number 7 pick. Your number 1. What's your favorite scene in Jurassic Park?
I think that there hasn't been a scene in a movie done better than that bridge section where the T-Rex is slamming down on the glass and those kids are underneath of it. You got Malcolm and the other you got Malcolm with the flare trying to get his attention, but he doesn't know what he's doing. You got the lawyer in the bathroom cabana who gets taken out. It's so freaking intense. You have the water going up and down. The build that Spielberg learned and honed from Jaws is on full display in this section. A close number 2 is that kitchen scene with those 2 raptors. He like gives this douchey smile in the side of the window.
Yeah. Well, the raptor is a little cocky. He knows he's the evolutionary advantage.
Oh, it's so intense and you got that brilliant fake out shot where the raptor's running right at the girl, and she's like, she's trying to pull it down, but it's her reflection. So he runs head on into the thing. What's that?
I said it's brilliant. It's such a good.
It's so good, and even the Nedry scene out with the I forget the name of the type of dinosaur that's out there. That like he gets the shit in his eyes and he gets
Dotson. We got Dotson here. See, nobody cares. There's the other thing that I think puts Jurassic Park above Jaws, and I think we do both have it above Jaws, is unlike that movie, Spielberg sets up, especially in the first act, the most majestic reverence for something I think all of us as kids envisioned and fantasized about, which is actually seeing real live dinosaurs. And he brought it to the fore in the best, most realistic way anyone had ever done by 1993. And I think still,
it holds up so well.
I didn't see the Adam Driver movie 65, but I can't imagine they looked better than this. The dinosaurs in that.
I saw that movie. It's as the kids say, mid. It's all right. It's not as bad as people said, but it's certainly not anything, groundbreaking. And I mean, you don't even have to look far. Look at Jurassic World. The dinosaurs there look like cartoons. And you have Owen, who's essentially at this point the dinosaur whisperer. He just puts his hands out at everything. It's like, hey.
And then they had Sam Neill doing it in the last one too.
They had the girl doing it, the clone girl. She's like, hey, this is working. So bad.
So, anyway, no, Jurassic Park is it's such a good pick for number 1. I have another very good friend of mine that also his favorite all-time movie. It's my number 7. It's the kind of thing I've seen it probably not enough time. Probably only seen it like 7 or 8 times, but for me that's a lot.
It's just when you ask people about movies, typically what comes to mind first is a big blockbuster that has withstood the test of time, something that pulls you in and draws your childhood out. And I think Jurassic Park is that movie for a lot of people.
1,000%. Great film. And I'm glad it was the movie I loved because
I love your
I would judge you differently if it was something bad.
That's fair.
It's a good icebreaker, as I'll always ask. So they don't always know, but early on, and when I meet someone, I'll be like, what's your favorite movie? And I'm in my head, I'm silently going, all right, well, that was a 9 out of 10. All right, you passed. But if they give me something, like Cold, what was it called? Cold Front or Out Cold?
Out Cold, yeah.
If they said that was their favorite movie, I'm like, oh, okay.
Cinematic Darling, Out Cold.
Okay, that's okay.
Speaking of cinematic darlings,
this quietly see myself out. I'm like, all right, we're not gonna have a lot in common now.
I love your number one pick, John, but it also just makes me sad. But I love it.
It makes you sad because Michael J. Fox is
it makes me sad because
for 30 years.
Yes,
I just watched his documentary. Still, I would hugely recommend it. It is a brilliantly made and brilliantly poignant reflection on his life, his optimism, and the approach he takes now in his mid-60s. Afflicted with this debilitating disease.
Sure.
And a really, really great documentary. And you kind of get into his mindset, and somehow still, the guy is so funny and charismatic and optimistic, despite having such a shit hand of cards that he was dealt.
Did you see him on Curb Your Enthusiasm that season?
I did, and it's so good. It's so
playing off his own disease. Playing off his own disease was brilliant.
Yeah. In the background here, I got the poster. I have a hoverboard signed by most of the cast and crew. I have the letter he writes Doc in the diner that says, like, if you go to 1985, you'll be shot. I have the sports almanac just out of frame up top. The license plate. I collect all the memorabilia from this. I've seen this movie in the theaters a few different times. I've met the cast. I've done the thing every year where if you watch it right at like 8:36 p.m. on November 12th, the lightning will strike the clock tower at 10:04 on your clock and on the movie's clock. I am obsessed with this movie. I know it back to front. I've watched all the behind the scenes. I know all the trivia. I've listened to all the commentary tracks, all the podcasts about it. Robert Zemeckis is just an absolute master at making this movie work, at the long shots, these long takes. I love what he does with blocking, where he'll just set up a camera and he'll have the characters kind of move back and forth. He'll turn a wide shot into a close-up just by having them move in frame, but then he'll move the camera to make it another. So even though the camera never cuts, you get like 4 or 5 different setups. Spielberg does that really well.
Yeah.
But I think more than anything, as a kid, I was so drawn to just the entire concept of time travel and going back in time and meeting your parents and that entire like fantastical conceit. It was just such a brilliant idea that Bob Gale came up with. Like, what if you could go back in time, meet your parents? What would they be like? Would they be a total nerd? And
or a smoke show who's trying to sleep with you?
and that's something that I have evolved on over the years. When I first watched this and fell in love with it as a kid, we had gone to Universal Studios when I was like 9 years old. I went on the ride without having seen the movie, and then we came home, and I'm like, Dad, I want to watch all those movies. So we went to West Coast Video and rented in the same week. We rented Jurassic Park, Terminator, Back to the Future, and Jaws, and I think Star Wars.
Oh my god!
Because it was like all the rides that you get. Well, maybe not Star Wars because that was Disney, but all the rides you see at Universal in like 1990, whatever. That we came back, and that month I went back, and it was a formative week, clearly, because most of those movies were on our list tonight.
Well, Star Wars wasn't Disney at the time when you
right. But they did have the Star Tours at the original.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
One of the Magic, one of those parks.
Yeah.
And I loved most of all, like just the beginning of the movie, all the science, the stuff in the parking lot with the remote control and the dog and shit. And then as an adult, I appreciate more the romantic elements and the stuff they're doing in the 50s. And yeah, when I was a kid, I definitely did not appreciate that Leia Thompson is an absolute stone cold fox.
Oh my god!
But now I'm like, oh fuck, has she always been this hot? I did not even notice.
Did you ever play the Telltale Back to the
Future
game?
I did. Well, at least the first. I think there's like
finish
5.
Did they ever finish?
I think they did. I've only played the first 2 episodes, and I really liked it.
Yeah, I did too.
There were some puzzles that were like frustratingly difficult.
Yeah.
That weren't like intuitive, and you just had like trial and error. But
the
storytelling and the way they expanded the story and kind of gave you more background of the characters was awesome. And I love this movie.
I didn't. You brought up the long takes, the long shots.
Yeah,
I watched this not that long ago with Connor. Who we watched the whole trilogy together, and I guess I didn't even notice the long shots until this last rewatch, and I was
Yeah,
really digging some of these shots that he was doing
but
during
they're not like over the top, like,
no,
like 12-minute oneers like you get in
right.
Extraction.
Yeah, it's not like
But they're like
Birdman.
right, they're like between 30 seconds and 2 minutes, where they're a little bit longer. And there's entire scenes of this movie that are just a single shot. It's not like a
Yes.
long scene, but there's a great one in the third movie, actually, is when they're in Doc's workshop and
Mm-hmm.
they're trying to come up with what's the best way to get the DeLorean up to 80. Well, we can't push it, we can't slide it. What if we could? Well, I did that back, right? We can't pull it, we can't slide it. What if we could push it? And that's when the train goes through the window right
Yes.
behind them. That entire scene, it's like a 90-second shot. It all takes place in one camera move that kind of like floats around the room and then ends with an actual train. I'm like, how did they time that?
The timing
On
so
that.
good.
And he does a lot of stuff like that in all three movies. But
Yes. I found myself
I love it
when
all.
when I go back and watch some of these movies, that's something I've been picking up on more and just really digging on are some of the longer takes and some of the techniques they're using. I just watched Grease with the family as well, and there are a lot of longer takes in that movie that I never really appreciated before.
I definitely, that's something you get on rewatches is
Yes.
you notice the craftsmanship and the sort of the technical tricks they're doing and the
Mhm.
way they're blocking shots, the way they're framing and focusing and doing foreground, background.
Yes.
And yeah, Bob Zemeckis did a hell of a job with this one. I mean, obviously, he went on to do Roger Rabbit and Castaway.
Yes. He
Also,
definitely had a good run.
Forrest
Lately,
Gump,
not so much, but he had a good run.
Contact, is it Death Becomes Her? Like, he did a lot of really, really good films.
He did Death Become. I didn't know he did Death Becomes Her. That's an
He did.
interesting movie. Goldie
He's done-
Hawn
he's-
and is Bruce Willis in that?
Yes.
Who's the guy? Okay, it is
Yeah,
Bruce Willis.
Bruce, yeah.
Goldie Hawn, Bruce Willis, and I can't remember the other woman. There's a third
Susan
player.
Sarandon.
Oh, okay, yeah, man. My dad really liked that movie. We watched it several times. He
It's
must have had a
very
thing-
funny.
He probably had a thing for Goldie Hawn too.
No,
back
I'm
in the
sorry,
day.
not Susan Sarandon. Meryl Streep.
Okay, yes, because I remember the very defined cheekbones that she had
Yes.
in that film. Well, John, this was awesome. Guys, if you have any more super chats, now's the time. We're probably going to wrap this in a few minutes. We've been going for an hour and a half.
2.5 hours.
2.5 hours. Oh my
2.5.
God. And John's not getting anything. John's not getting anything from this. He just gets to talk movies. He doesn't have
No,
a channel
I like
to even
it.
push anymore. Do you have
No,
anything?
not really.
that
I mean, you
push?
can subscribe. I have this delusional dream of one day getting the gold play button, but I still got 139,500 subscribers to go. Not that I'm counting.
I'm still trying to get to 100,000.
Yeah.
So, and I've been doing this for over a decade now.
Yeah.
Slow and steady, I guess. Or
Maybe you should just give up. It's probably not going to happen.
I probably should just give up. Yeah,
That's fine. It's
I probably.
you gave it your best shot.
I gave it my old college try. It didn't work.
I've wasted my life.
What am I doing? This is where I have an existential crisis and breakdown on live on.
I
stream.
do 1,000%. I think you should do a live stream where it's like the mithril gauntlet, where every 60 seconds you review another film, and you just
for Mithril members. That's not a bad idea.
just from super chats. Just anybody
for super chats. I gotcha.
like
I
what you
probably
did-
get. The problem is I don't have we average 60 to, if we're lucky, 90 live streams. It's not like I have hundreds or thousands of people that are going to be like, oh, do this one. It'll be like my brother throwing $20 out.
I would maybe make it $1 to incentivize people to do it more than
There
once.
you go. All
And
right,
then
I blocked out the next 3 hours for Mithril chat. It is one that comes in. That's always the risk you have when you do something like that.
I have been there a few times where I fully overestimate the sort of cachet that my idea or my brilliance is going to have,
Right.
and then it's like it just lands with a big loud thud. Like,
Right.
oh, okay, so nobody really gave a shit. Well,
Yeah.
I have a bit of egg on my face, and I'm just going
Yeah.
to quietly never do this show again.
It's gonna hit that dusty trail.
I'm just all right. Nobody wanted to watch this, so that's fine. I'll never do another one again.
Well, John, as always, it's fun to talk with you. We are
Likewise,
gonna have
great
to,
catching up.
We're gonna have to come up with a movie feud at some point. Clearly, we've come up with a few already that we know we can talk about at
Yes.
length.
I
Unfortunately,
feel like The Last Jedi will just be frustrating. And the Avatar one, I think, would be a lively and fun discussion that won't be like bogged down by just vicious trolls and this fan bases.
I don't know if I could even sit through that movie again. That's the problem.
Do it.
I just don't like that movie at all. I remember being in the theater just miserable, and I was super looking forward to it. Vinny, with like a final leg on the stream, comes in with a $5 powerful chat. Jurassic Park was my life as a kid. Still have all the toys. The point, what does he say? The point job?
The paint job on that Ford Explorer.
The paint job on that Ford Explorer is chef's kiss, and my imagination ran wild. Yeah, and now they sell those at dealerships. You can buy the Jurassic Park themed Jeep. You know, that movie's so good on a lot of different levels. How about it from a merchandising standpoint? The fact that they made merch in the movie that you could also buy in the real world? Come on.
Brilliant.
They had a whole merch store in the movie.
I was also a big fan because JP, my initials. So it was
JP.
It was an easy buy for me.
Easy breezy, beautiful. Okay. Yeah, I think I'm going to close down. We're at midnight. John doesn't need to be here any longer. No. John, this was awesome. We'll do it again. We'll talk. We'll chat.
Okay.
And guys, I'm going to leave it there. John, if you have any last little push you want to give them, jog wheel, anything, and I'll shut it down.
Well, it's been in the lower third the whole night. Check me out on Letterboxd. I'm still pretty active over there. I watch a movie every single night, and I review at least a few a week. I'm kind of a bit backlogged because I haven't updated it in a few weeks, but I will soon. And I just reviewed. What did I just review this week? A couple of new ones. Apollo 11. And Dead Reckoning, Asteroid City. My thoughts on a bunch of submarine movies. Remember when that submersible imploded?
Yeah, I remember that. Everybody was
how can we forget?
Everybody's really sad about the billionaires that died.
It was only like 2 weeks ago. Anyway, I went on a good kick where I just watched submarine movies for like a week, and I was watching all these James Cameron documentaries,
Crimson Tide and The Hunt for Red October.
And I was just watching any movie that dealt with like deep sea exploration, and I found some good stuff. So if you're inclined to watch some or read some reviews on any of that, check me out on Letterboxd. That's where I'm active. Or you could subscribe to my YouTube channel, which has been dormant.
Which one, Movie Night or Jog Wheel? Which one are you going with?
Jog Wheel. That's like the real Movie Night's always just been like a little.
Okay. Like subscribe to Jog Wheel. Let's motivate John. You know, get him like 20 or 30 new subs, and he can go, you know what? People care. I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna start doing some stuff again, and that would be awesome.
I should. I mean, I got the setup. It's not like I forgot how to do it. I just ran out of time and motivation.
I mean, you just spent 2.5 hours doing this. You could easily do 1 day a week. Make an hour live stream, edit it up, and throw it out.
I trust me. I've been talking to my wife about that for probably 2 years. I'm like, this week I'll do it.
It's just a hobby. You have the full-time job that's paying the bills, right?
2 actually.
2. So
not 2 full-time jobs.
So just do like 1 or 2 nights a week. Just make an hour video, throw it on YouTube.
I want to. It's one of those things I just have to kind of get. But every time I'm like, you know what? I could go upstairs and turn on the lights on and film for a couple hours. Or I could get ice cream and watch a movie.
It's always easier said than done.
It's always easier just to not do the work.
You.
And when I no longer rely on it for an income, it was like, you know what? I don't give a shit.
Yeah, it would be a very nice kind of boot off the chest, so to speak. But
yeah,
John, always a pleasure, dude. Guys, Thank you for watching live, and we will see you very soon. Take care.
Bye.